What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got for you a very special video. This year on my channel, you guys have absolutely loved the Reddit relationship drama stories, and more specifically, wedding drama. There have been some crazy bridezilla stories, in-laws doing mental things, you name it, you've seen it across the last year on my channel. So I thought I would select and handpick the very best, the very most mental, insane Reddit wedding stories from 2024 and compile them into this 3-hour episode just for you. So without further ado, drop a like on this one if you're excited for it. Subscribe to the channel if you're somehow new. And let me tell you, there's going to be a lot more wedding related content in 2025 because I think it's so enjoyable. Let's get into it. Sister wants to walk down the aisle at my wedding. We use that to our advantage. Here I am, writing this long tale on my honeymoon, but it does feel cathartic to finally type it out. And my husband is way more excited about this than the resort drinks. Anyway, this is a throwaway account because I don't have a Reddit account, and my husband, the Reddit fanatic, said he doesn't want this associated with his main. As to why the Reddit guy isn't the one writing this, it's because he said, since it's my family, I should be the one with the honor of posting the story. But he is looking over my shoulder to help out. So, I think first it's necessary to give some background to explain how this behavior reached this level and why our responses were as they were. So ever since I could remember, my parents loved my sister more. I don't mean in subtle ways either. If my sister accused me of something, they'd believe it and punish me. If I accused her, they wouldn't believe it. Even if there was undeniable proof, they'd still give her a lesser punishment and try to find a way to scold me in tandem. My birthday cake had to be a flavor that she wanted. Hers did not. And my parents always denied knowing that I didn't like that type of cake. They always bought her a bit more than for me. We went to where she wanted, even if it was an event that should be about me. My sister grew up spoiled and didn't like me. She just used me as a punching bag. But at first, she mostly ignored me, and then it got really bad when we were young teens. I'm not sure what the cause and effect are, but she found herself with no friends, and her behavior got worse. Did her friends move? Did they ditch her because she was mean? I don't know, because we were never close, and my parents loved to boast about her achievements, but never ever mentioned any of her issues. Whereas with me, they loved to bring out any flaws of mine constantly as teasing material. I only knew she had none because we went to the same school and I noticed her no longer walking around with people. So anyway, she had no friends, and I did. I actually used to be decently popular. My sister realized that, and suddenly I stopped being the occasional punching bag to a hated person that she needed to take down at all times. She started accusing me of more stuff. She accused my friends of more stuff. My parents stopped allowing me to hang out with anyone, the excuses ranging from, they're not good people according to your sister, to, why are you trying to leave us? Why can't you be like your sister and enjoy family time? What saved me from complete isolation was my extended family. Most of my family lived in the same hometown, and I got along with my cousins despite some age difference. At one gathering, they invited me over to something, I don't remember what, and I sadly replied that I'm not allowed to go anywhere. When asked why, my kid self with no filter replied that it was because I wasn't allowed to have friends since my sister didn't have any. Well, that reached the adults, who apparently tore my parents apart. Later I was scolded for lying and I was grounded, as if I had anywhere to go, for a month. But after that they allowed me some leeway, so it was worth it. And my sister changed schools. I guess the humiliation of extended family knowing her social status was bad, she demanded to be changed. And my parents immediately obliged, even though it cost them more since the school was further away. But she made friends at the new school. However, she never went back to the previous status quo of mostly ignoring me. I guess having felt the power of how badly she could screw with me and anger that I told family she had no friends, she never let me go. My life was still bad. Her friends would come over and bully me, and my parents called it light teasing. I never called friends over because my parents were awful hosts of them, or my sister would accuse them of taking stuff and they'd believe it. I did become close to my cousins though, since my parents never dared do any of that to family. And then I got my first boyfriend. I didn't want to bring him home at all, but my parents insisted. Well, at one point we were separated and he came to find me to tell me my sister was flirting with him. By which he meant she came over with skimpy clothing, batting her eyelashes really badly, and started telling him how bad I was and how good she was. He was irked and ran off to find me. Of course, my sister told my parents a different tale, that my boyfriend had instead tried to flirt with her, but she naturally refused, since how could she do that to me? And guess who my parents believed? Now, my boyfriend wasn't perfect, but I immediately believed him, for a mean reason. But remember that back then I was a teen and suffering from the unfair bad treatment. I was very resentful and moody, and now hated my sister as much as she hated me. Well, that surely is fair enough. Anyway, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about looks. I hadn't mentioned them yet because they weren't relevant. My parents were, well, are overweight. And since they like showing love via food, giving you more food, buying treats, etc., my sister was and is also overweight, whereas I was and am not. In fact, I've always been kind of skinny because punishment often included no treats or snacks. Obviously, weight isn't what matters, personality is though. But my sister even then was already rude and spoiled. Even her flirting attempts were bad because she never learned to work for anything since she could demand and my parents would deliver. Added to that, the fact that she didn't look like some sexy model, even my self-conscious teen self didn't believe that my boyfriend would try and cheat on me with her. Ah, I see. Anyways, my parents prohibited me from dating such a horrible boy. I did try to keep going in secret, but it was hard and the relationship ended. I did get another, but again, my sister accused him of flirting with her when he refused her advances. Again, my parents believed her. I tried pointing out how this happened again, but they decided that that meant I was incapable of making good choices and kept picking bad boyfriends. The relationship couldn't handle the Romeo-Juliet situation and fizzled out again. I would eventually get called a S-word in high school, as I was fine with making out with boys and such, but refused to have relationships. Thankfully, that never got back to my sister or parents. My sister did bring one boyfriend home during all this time. He was paraded with pride, and my parents spent every second telling me how good he was. And why couldn't I be like my sister and find myself someone like that? Until he stopped showing up, and suddenly he was a conniving, insert any swear word here, that tricked my sister. Oh well. And the unequal treatment continued at this time. She had more spending money, her curfews were much better than mine, she was free to go anywhere at any time while I couldn't. If I pointed that out, my parents would say it's because she's older. But when I reached that age, I still didn't have the same treatment she had. And when I pointed that out, they deny they ever said that or claim it was because I couldn't be trusted like she was, using my sister's accusations against my boyfriend and friends as proof of my bad judgments. Time goes by and it's time for my sister to graduate. She was accepted into a college, not a very well regarded one, and she had no scholarship or anything. Again, because only her achievements were told to me, I don't know which colleges she even tried for, so I can't say how badly she was rejected. I do know her grades were bad in school though, because whenever she got a B, we would celebrate. I would usually get good grades, but my parents refused to celebrate, claiming since I always got them, what was there to celebrate? My parents, naturally, made a lot of fanfare and told her they'd pay for everything. I was relieved she'd be going away. Not that it made my life any easier. She'd always come home every other weekend, and somehow stuff kept missing from her room or some other issues she'd think of to make my life miserable. My curfews were still strict, etc. Eventually, my mum came to talk to me about my impending graduation. I'm only a year younger than my sister. She told me that since they were paying for my sister's college, they had no money to pay for mine. So, it would be better for me to start work immediately after graduation and wait until my sister finished uni to see if they could afford something for me. Oh, and if I decided to stay at home, I'd have to pay for all my stuff, part of the bills, and rents. I pointed out I could get student loans. Mum said yes, except no. That is, because they were so caring towards me and I had such bad judgment, they would decide if a college was worth my getting in debt or not. I'm not sure how they'd stop me from getting loans, but I didn't ask. Scholarships weren't mentioned. They had no idea what my grades were anymore and never believed in my capabilities. Anyway, I didn't bat an eyelid. I simply said, okay. My mum clearly didn't expect that and kept pushing. Maybe she hoped that I'd throw a tantrum so they'd have an excuse to not ever pay for my college, but I said nothing except I understood their position, thanked them for caring, and that was that. My dad later tried the same, but I also refused to be emotional. You see, after a lifetime of their terrible parenting, I never had any expectations towards my education. I knew they'd find an excuse to not pay for mine and make my life miserable. I never believed they'd eventually pay it if I worked and waited for my sister to graduate. I'd been preparing for college for a long time. I could barely go out, my friendships were slim, so I had a lot of time to study. And study I did, because I saw college as my only chance to be free. Well, the time came and I worked my butt off and got a scholarship. Not to anywhere like Ivy League or anything like law or medical school, but it was a good enough course in a decent college with a full scholarship. Knowing my sister would hate it and try to stop me via my parents, I put my achievement on social media at the same time I told them. Even forced myself to thank them in the post. Now they couldn't forbid me from going, as they'd have to explain to family why not. Initially, they were even a little proud and boasting about it. And then I guess my sister got to them, and they changed gears and even asked me if I was sure I wanted to go. They let slip that my sister wasn't doing well in college, and since she was smarter and had better judgment than me, I'd suffer worse. I obviously stuck to my guns. They weren't happy, but couldn't do anything. College was my savior, and I started being happy. I still contacted my parents and visited on holidays and such, but since they refused to pay for anything, I could excuse not going a lot due to money. During this time, I avoided introducing any man to them, and my sister stopped going to college. I know she didn't graduate because, again, they'd have made a fanfare about it. She moved back home, paid no bills or rent, but it's different, my parents said, and started working at the same company as my mum, obviously thanks to her pulling strings. This was all sold to me as a source of pride. Oh well. Almost there, I promise. I met my husband around this time. You know those people that say, if I was in X situation, I'd have done something? My husband is the type that really does. I'm the person that is meek and a doormat in any situation, and then can't sleep at night wishing I'd done something, had thought of something witty to say, etc. I'm the person that can't help but cry when I'm angry. My husband is the guy that claps back immediately. He loves drama, in that he loves to resolve it. He's the guy that if he doesn't immediately reply to a slight, you better start worrying, because he won't forgive and forget, he's just stewing something worse for revenge. He is the one that wanted me to post here, and wanted me to post on nuclear revenge as well, but decided what we did wasn't actually nuclear. People were baffled I got together with him. But just because I was incapable, thanks to my upbringing probably, of acting like him, it didn't mean I didn't like him. I love that my husband does what I can't, and he treats people well as long as they do the same to him. When we discussed marriage, we decided we didn't care much about the ceremony due to our budget, as we'd rather spend it on a dream trip to Europe for our honeymoon. As for where to do it, since his family was spread out and mine was still mostly concentrated in my hometown, we decided to do it there. We weren't living too far off either, so we could take some long trips during the weekends to manage stuff. Plus, there was some work flexibility, so we could stay in my hometown for a bit too, if needed. We sent out the engagement announcement and the save the date for a few months later. Well, at this point, my parents naturally demanded they meet my man. I wanted to grow a spine and refuse, but I was having a hard time. The distance had made me think that maybe my parents weren't so bad. Well, my husband looked like I cancelled Christmas when I told him I would at least ensure they were never alone with him. See, he'd been getting ready for this. He even bought a high quality recorder that he could hide in a pocket to record it all. He was stoked, thinking of all the ways he could refuse my sister's advances, insult her, and then spread the recording of her attempts to my family. So, off he went alone and excited to meet them, and came back later euphoric. Babe, you won't believe the awful stuff they wanted. Babe, we can screw them over so bad. There's so many possibilities. I was confused and I wanted to hear the recording, but he, smartly, told me it was better to listen to him first or else I'd misunderstand him. Well, he went there, and instead of the flirting, my parents and my sister sat him down. After some grumbling about not being okay with him, my judgment, etc., they proclaimed they were willing to pay for my wedding. On one condition. My sister would walk down the aisle on my wedding first in a wedding dress. Their excuses were that it wasn't okay for a younger sister to marry first, so it was only fair if my sister had at least the experience of it at my venue, with pictures being taken and the dress, and she'd have a cake later too, etc. And now guys, OP's husband takes over for a second, writing his parts. Hey, vengeful husband here. Hell hath no fury like a prorevenge / instant karma / nuclear revenge lurker when his beloved is scorned. That said, as much as my wife, teehee, she's my wife now, paints me as this quick-witted dude, I admit my neurons all but short-circuited when those folks legit suggested that trash, like some sort of great freaking gift. Even Troy would rather take in the horse a second time, methinks. Alas, after my brain rebooted, I did have a whole catalogue of insults about to spew out, but something in my soul whispered in my ear like the devil, string these idiots along. So I said I needed to think, see how my wife, back then fiance, would react, and then ran out of there before I could give away my nefarious plans. Now back to me, the wife. So my husband sincerely recounted how my parents wanted even my wedding to be about my sister, with a grin on his face, and had the recording to prove it. I was shocked. The distance had softened how bad they treated me, and I thought even they wouldn't go this far. Thankfully, my husband insisting on the angle of revenge helped me not go to a bad headspace. We had a blast thinking up ways to screw them over this, from ridiculously outlandish to what we thought was feasible. We then called his much more level-headed brother when we decided on a plan. It involved having 2 venue addresses, giving them the wrong one, etc. Well, level-headed brother scolded us for it. While he acknowledged he would never be able to convince us from retaliation, he at least showed us something like that would be hard to pull off. Some of our other ideas were also at danger of getting sued. So we eventually settled for the most benign plan. Act like we agreed, but then hire security and don't let her in. Obviously, if that was all, it wouldn't be pro-revenge. The rest is all mostly my husband, but he wants me to do the honors, so here goes. Just important to mention, everything he did was previously discussed with me and were our mutual ideas. He went back to my parents, said he probed and thought I wouldn't be down with it. However, he didn't see the issue, and not wanting family to fall apart, would be down to helping them do it. He pointed out that I don't like conflict, so if I was surprised with it, I might not throw a tantrum in front of all the people. On the other hand, marriage is a big thing, so who knew if I'd lash out? Then he suggested a compromise. They'd help pay for stuff. This way, I would feel even more pressure to not say anything, as not only would it be public, well, with our families there, and also I'd be grateful to the help they'd gave me, and that would mollify me. He said my parents looked surprised, but my grown sister started skipping with joy. Literally so, like a kid. So it was accepted. Important to add, my husband also claimed that due to some bad judgment in boyfriends in the past, these words were all my idea, and I'm so proud of using their words against them. I was distrustful and controlling and liked to check his phone and stuff to ensure he wasn't cheating on me. As such, it was imperative that nothing of this plan was ever put in any writing. For any discussion pertaining to my sister walking down the aisle before me, he'd go over to their house to talk. That is genius. And so began the months of deception, where my parents and sister thought they were tricking me, and my husband and I really were milking them. How? Well, rather than pay for the wedding than lay low, of course, my parents wanted input in everything. For some stuff that meant a lot to me, the songs and colour palette, my husband would convince them to let it go to keep me in line. But since we never really cared for the ceremony to begin with, everything else was game. Or so they thought. What we did was thus. We'd go, say, to check the drink and menu options. We'd then accept the lowest or second lowest priced option. My husband would then secretly take my sister there to also try it out, then sigh and say it's a pity we don't want to abuse my parents' goodwill, so we wouldn't get the best options. Cue my sister demanding my parents pay for the best. My parents would then tell me not to worry and they'd pay for the most expensive. Same was done with the photographer. For the flowers, my husband handed my sister a bouquet of the flowers we wanted, then sadly expressed how I wanted some other tasteless flowers. Cue my parents telling me they wanted us to go with said flowers and they'd pay for it. Wedding dress. We hit a minor snag here. My parents wanted me to use a hideous dress. Okay, not outright hideous, but it wasn't my style and wouldn't look that good on me. We had planned on saying yes, then simply not using it, but my mum sent me a message about it, so there'd be proof I said okay. We had to go with me refusing in text and standing my ground. My husband went over there and said he'd see what he could do. My sister suggested ruining my desired dress so I'd be forced to wear the other one. He pretended to agree. During all of this time, they really did keep communications outside of any text. We made sure that had happened by, when my sister tried messaging my husband, have me reply to her. This solidified the I'm controlling and neurotic claims that my husband was making. So they believed it and never risked anything in writing. And maybe some people might not like the thought of their partner going around and talking badly about them to family, but I'm such a doormat that the thought of being painted as this controlling and dangerous woman is extremely funny to me, and I egged him on to do it. I guess I have a warped sense of humor. Oh, and my sister did try to flirt with him, but he acted conflicted. Also, to really sell that he was with them, my husband would pretend to tell them things without my knowledge, but he never told them we hired security. It was really funny. My husband and I, who had sincerely considered a courthouse wedding to focus costs on our honeymoon, having this extravagant, expensive wedding, barely spending a dime. We called it back pay for emotional damages from my parents. I think that my husband, okay, he just confirmed that I'm right, was enjoying the whole tricking them more than actually planning our wedding. I didn't think it was possible to witness a guy beaming at the thought of wasting his whole Saturday doing a car trip to discuss wedding details with his in-laws, but here we are. Soon the day came. The plan that my parents, sister and husband had come up with was wait until everyone was seated. Since the bride always comes out late, they'd have my sister arrive at that precise time to avoid me seeing her and trying to stop it, and walk down the aisle. By the time that I'd heard what happened, it would be too late to do anything. As for my dress, we saved some of the leftover fabric from my dress alterations, and my husband took that to my parents' place. My sister still lives with them even now, and showed them as proof that he'd ruined the dress. Then he said he had to go back to me as I was raging and he needed to calm me down, and he'd see them at the wedding. We made sure to keep our actual security hidden at first. As the guests and my parents arrived, all they could see was a woman with a list of names to check. Only after my parents arrived and sat down did we bring out security. A guy that looked like a bodyguard. We told him to not allow my sister in, and even agreed on paying a handsome tip if he didn't reveal that we told him that. Soon the time arrived. My parents got a text that my sister was less than 5 minutes away, so my dad went and told people to start. My bridesmaids had been told to follow his lead beforehand, so they obeyed without checking with me. After they all went down and took their places, my dad stood up at the entrance as if waiting for me. During this, a friend not in the wedding party texted me to get ready. This is because if my husband or bridesmaids took out a phone and started texting, people might notice. This friend was in on the plan. She's my husband's friend. As willing to help stir drama as he is, I didn't care about being a bridesmaid or anything. Well, as soon as my dad took his position, the bridal song started playing. The doors open and I come in. My dad looked aghast at me being there. He tried glancing behind me, but you can't see the venue entrance from where we were, so he couldn't see what happened to my sister. And then his phone rang. I saw the caller ID and it was her. He just left me there with a mumbled, something came up. There were gasps and confusion all around. The friend in on it loudly asked what happened. I lied and in a teary voice said he told me it wasn't supposed to be me there. Now, that's not what he said, but my husband and I agreed that if he dared leave me, I should say that to make him look the worst possible. As for the tears, I wish I could just say it was my stellar acting, but no. Despite everything, a part of me didn't think he'd go as far as to abandon me there. That the sister thing wasn't true, but an elaborate joke. I don't know. I was hurt, and I still am, so I was sincerely trying not to cry. You know what? I think that's an important part of the story right there. Despite all this elaborate revenge, still, it's drummed into you in that very moment that your dad just clearly doesn't love you as much as your sister, to an unbelievable extent. and that he really is a terrible person for that. I mean, to abandon you like that on the aisle on your wedding day says a lot about him. And to be fair, it vindicates this entire revenge. Let's carry on. Now, that same friend then loudly went, "What did he mean by it shouldn't be you?" So that as many people as possible could hear and spread it. Then went, "I will go and check," and ran off. We decided to do this to make her create hell with the security and stop my dad from coming back and stopping the ceremony or something. At some point, my mum also left. At this point, my husband's dad quickly ran over and took my arm. He'd been forewarned that he might need to. Watching him run desperately to me helped me smile. I walked down the aisle to whispers as people discussed what happened. Some apparently left to check too. When I reached my husband though, all was well. He made me feel better, joking my sad face was so real that I deserved an Oscar, and don't worry, he'd rake them over the coals for what they did. We got married without a hitch. My parents didn't come back. I did notice a lot of people leaving then coming back during the party, but nobody dared tell me what was happening. Someone did come and whisper in my husband's ear, and he went out. He came back after a while, with a thunderous expression, but whispered in my ear that he needed to go and hide somewhere before he broke character and started smiling. Well, what happened is, it worked. The following is the summed account from friends, family, the security guy, and my husband that I received afterwards. My sister did arrive in a wedding dress. The security refused to let her in. Per our agreement, he claimed she must be in the wrong venue because there was already a bride. And yes, we tipped him really well as promised. My dad went there and tried threatening him with police, claiming that he'd never heard of him, so he couldn't be working there. The security agreed to the police since he was hired by us and was just doing his job. My dad realized by then it would be too late and tried to demand that he let my sister in. At this point, my friend came over and started shouting and insulting my sister, asking what was going on, basically stalling. My mum soon came out and eventually other people did too. At this point, the wedding plan was bust. All my parents could do now is damage control, as everyone that learned about it was aghast that they'd try and pull it and screaming and berating them. The three naturally said it wasn't a secret and then threw my husband under the bus. At this point, my husband was summoned. When he came over, he put on his best look of confusion and denied. To quote him, "Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss." He denied having ever agreed to something so ridiculous. When they insisted that he did, he demanded proof. And of course, they couldn't produce any. All text exchanges they could produce were about normal wedding decisions. My sister was scream crying and apparently sat on the floor kicking her legs like a kid. My dad looked like he'd beat my husband, but security and other people held him back. Of course, they said they had no proof because my husband told them not to text. My husband laughed and said, "Wow, how convenient, huh?" Then again repeated, why would he ever agree to something so screwed up? He told them a new one about being awful parents, then said he wasn't going to let their stupid plans and lying get in the way of his wedding, and he went back to me. Oh, this is just working out so phenomenally well, I've got to say. No one believed them. The venue had cameras, but they refused to show me the recording as that was only for security purposes. But some people filmed parts of it. Watching my parents and sister get ripped apart by any and everyone that came out to check the drama was delicious. After years and years of being accused of stuff and not believed, to watch them have a taste was one of the best wedding gifts. My mother was crying. My dad kept changing from purple to white. My sister was still on the floor, crying and screaming. They kept insisting that my husband was in on it, but people kept asking, why would my husband agree? Why was there no proof? Why do they want my sister to do this at my wedding? And of course, they had no good answer to any of it. Eventually, they were told to leave and had no choice but to do so. My dad apparently had to drag my sister up as she refused to leave the ground. Again, people said nothing to me all night. I guess they wanted to spare me. And maybe it's because I was the bride and not just a guest for once, but it did feel like everyone was making extra effort to be nice, positive, and excited about everything. My husband says all the expensive stuff they were eating and drinking certainly helps. We had a blast. My husband maintained the forced angry face for only a short while before breaking out in smiles again. After that, we went to the hotel to catch some sleep before going on our honeymoon. Speaking of which, my parents did try to pay for our plane tickets, but we thought that was risky, as they could then try and cancel them or something, so we refused. Yeah, that's pretty sensible, I'd say. And also, I feel like you've rinsed them for enough at this point. Of course, since that whole thing, the three have tried to contact me. I've refused calls because my husband insisted on keeping a paper trail. Smart thing, my sister did eventually message me. I won't repeat it, as it was very unhinged and didn't make much sense. But the important part was that she blamed me for her humiliation, called my husband a two-faced snake that fooled them for months. He wants to print that out and put it on our wall, and hoped, but was also certain it would happen, that I'd get cheated on by him. She did also suggest that he was cheating on me with her, actually. What a thing to say. My husband took my phone, screenshotted the call logs, screenshotted my sister's message, screenshotted some messages of my parents demanding I pick up the phone, and sent it all to my family group chat. And sent screenshots of messages to him where they called him names and threatened him. But he kept up the "you're delusional, I never agreed to anything" shtick, and even threatened to sue them for defamation and harassment. He wrote a message in said group chat, begging my family for help, as I was now being harassed by them constantly. He begged extended family to help stop them from trying to ruin my honeymoon now that they'd failed to ruin my wedding. Then finished neatly with a request that they don't share our locations to avoid my parents sending my sister over, and then claiming he had somehow agreed to pretend to F her in our honeymoon suite. Wow. My family assured him they'd take care of it. And indeed, since then, we've had silence. My husband is a little disappointed that my sister didn't disobey, so he could tattle again while tearing her a new butthole. We'll see if it will last. All in all, while I obviously would have preferred to have a normal, loving family at my wedding, at least for once in my life, they not only failed to ruin something meaningful to me, but I got them back. Wow, just phenomenal. I mean, what an unbelievable story. A truly wonderful plan that has just paid off so well. I mean, even in your deepest desires and thoughts as to how this could come off, you know, what could eventually happen, what could potentially go wrong, you simply cannot have thought it would have gone as well as it did there. That is genius, so well deserved, and yeah, what a piece of revenge. I think your point at the end, though, is very valid, OP. Obviously, nobody would ever want this, but given the situation and given how terrible your immediate family clearly is, this is the best solution. It really is. Having no evidence there at all to prove what you and your husband did, having the majority of your wedding paid for and having it be really nice is just phenomenal. And yeah, overall, you've made the best out of what is a bad situation, but that was already a given. You were born with your horrible family, nothing you can do about that. So yeah, might as well make this situation just great. So good. I mean, guys, get in the comments down below, or actually, if you're on Spotify, get in the Q&A section as well. You can still comment on Spotify. Do you think that was one of the best pieces of revenge, the most well thought out pieces of revenge that we've ever seen? I think it's got to be up there, surely. Absolutely loved it. Phenomenal stuff. I know I've said phenomenal a lot, but it really was, and now I'm saying phenomenal. That's how phenomenal it really is. My dad is pretending I'm not getting married. So, my dad has always been a very show-off person. Announcements about grades, telling everyone how great his daughters are doing, telling off my sister for having a job he can't show off. When he divorced from my mum, he was a good parent for a while. And then he met Eva. Eva is way younger, has had a lot of work done, and used to send him flirty messages when he was still married. They got married very early on in the relationship because they've known each other ages. She told him not to text us too much because we are adults. She checks his phone all the time. She forbade him from seeing us Christmas Day or St. Stephen's Day because he needed to be with his new family, and it would be disrespectful to her for him to see his ex-wife. Overall, she's been an absolute nightmare, and he follows everything that she tells him to do. Now, I'm getting married, and I told my dad that he is invited, but she is not. I've met the woman once, and I don't like her. Plus, I know my father isn't a great person, and he'd be making jabs at my mum about being older than Eva, etc. To make it fair, my mum's boyfriend is also not invited, although he is a sweetheart. My dad's answer to my invite has been to pretend nothing is happening. I sent him a save the date, and he sent me a thumbs up emoji. He hasn't asked me one question about the wedding, not even the venue. even though he told me shortly before meeting Eva that he was looking forward to me and my sister getting married and how excited he was. Myself and my fiance are different religions and cultures, so everyone's had lots of questions about how we are handling that. It turns out he hasn't told Eva I'm getting married, and he hasn't told anyone else. So he's just planning to say he has a work trip and come to the wedding. I don't actually think he's going to show up. I think he will say he is going to and then not show at the last minute, but my sister thinks he'll show up with her and make a whole scene because he told her Eva has just as much right to be there as your mum. Has anyone else dealt with something similar? Do I need a backup to walk me down the aisle? So there we go, that is it for the original post. Before I give my thoughts, first of all, let's get into some comments I've picked out. Someone has said, I just want to point out that your dad is in an abusive relationship. His new wife is cutting him off from his family, his support system, so she can have more control over him. He probably won't be allowed to go to the wedding because she is not invited, and probably wouldn't have been allowed to even if she was. Now, your dad is a jerk all on his own, but I think it's important to recognize that he's still capable of being abused and that it's happening. OP replied to this, yes, they both suck. He has always been a cheater. At least 3 other women during the span of 10 years that we have evidence of. And I think, no evidence, that he was cheating on my mum with her. So that's why she's constantly monitoring his phone and not allowing him to leave the house. We told him not to marry her and that her behavior is very concerning, but he seems very blind. Someone else commented below, it sounds like he wants to come, and he knows that the only way of him coming without his wife is if he lies about it. He's risking getting caught to be able to go, which speaks volumes about their relationship. But if she checks his phone, you're causing further risk of her finding out if you keep messaging him about the wedding. Stick to phone calls so there's no record. I hope he can make it and there's no drama. To be honest, that was kind of what I was thinking as well. On the one hand, yes, he's a terrible person, we can see that, but it does also seem like he wants to come. OP replied to this, I rang him the first time to tell him I was getting married, and then sent him the save the date the second time, asking if he was coming. I didn't know that he hadn't told her at the time. I've got no idea why his wife wouldn't let him go to his daughter's wedding though, if she's as amazing as he says. And then finally, someone asked OP why his mum's boyfriend isn't invited. OP said, there's far more drama if I include him and exclude Eva. It's not worth the headache. My dad for sure will not show up if I invite my mum's boyfriend and not his wife. My mum understands that even though my dad is not the best dad ever, I still want him there. They haven't been together that long, so she's okay with her boyfriend staying at home. Plus, then he can stay with the dogs, and she doesn't have to worry about getting a dog sitter. Most of the family is going as well, so there's nobody else to look after them. Okay, so there we go for the first post. That was actually posted back in March 2023. And about 6 or 7 months later, we got an update, so stay tuned for that. We're gonna get right into that. But I have to just say, off the bat, I can't work out who is more in the wrong here. OP's dad or his new wife. Maybe they're both as bad as each other, I'm not sure. Get in the comments down below. Do you think that OP's dad wants to come to the wedding and is not telling his wife about it because he knows that she won't want him to come and he's gonna come, but he doesn't want anyone to know about it? Or he's making up excuses not to come and just doesn't want to come anyway? I'm not entirely sure myself. One thing I do know is that his new wife, and I agree with the first commenter there, is being abusive. She's so controlling. She's not even letting this man see his own kids. Now, you could say that he needs to put his foot down and just do what he wants to do. Maybe it's not as easy as that, or maybe he doesn't want to. I'm not entirely sure. What do you think? Get in the comments down below. But for now, let's move on to the first update. Actually, sorry, before we get into it, the more I think about it, the more I'm just thinking that your dad is probably a horrible person. He cheated on your mum so many times, and now it's got to the point where your mum, OP, is having to accept that her lovely new boyfriend can't come to your wedding because of your dad's new partner. You know what, nah, I think your dad is just a terrible person. Anyway, let's move on. So it turns out my dad ended up telling Eva about my wedding and telling her that she was invited to the wedding to avoid problems. She got herself a dress, booked a hotel, etc. My dad tried to convince me to invite her, but his biggest selling point was that he thought it would be an amazing time to introduce Eva to my mum and my mum's whole family. Why would he think my mum would want to meet this woman is beyond me, and that she would feel excluded otherwise. He always rubs his new family in our faces, even calling it his new family. He keeps cancelling every dinner he sets up with my sister due to some emergency involving Eva, or tells us to call Eva Mum. Both me and my sister are way beyond the point of calling some random mum since we both moved out and he's being ridiculous. Also, you guys already have a mum. He called me again and again, trying to convince me, and I said no, explaining that I knew the only reason he wanted to bring his wife to the wedding was to upset mum, and that I wasn't going to let the two of them do that. He makes jabs at my mum every time he's around her about how great his new wife is. I thought the whole thing was over until I sent him some information about the wedding, and I guess he started feeling guilty and told us that he booked the flight for Eva as well. And he booked himself on the same flight as my mum. He changed his whole flight plans just so he could be on the flight with her, so that my mum and Eva could still meet. AKA, he could rub his new wife in her face and try and screw with my wife's head by putting her down and making comparisons. And then Eva would just go off and shop while he was at the ceremony. I'm not sure if this is true, or if he was going to try and bring her to the wedding and hope she didn't get kicked out. I'm trying to convince my mum to change her flight so he can't get inside her head 12 hours before the wedding. I don't know if I should uninvite him. OP, come on. You absolutely need to uninvite him. Anyway, let's get into one comment that I've picked out, which I think is very important, and I completely agree with it. Someone said, "Oh my god, yes. What has your mum done to you that you'd facilitate hurting her? Why does he know so many details of your mum's travel plans? That's a great question. How can he possibly get on the same plane as her? How does he know?" OP replied, "She is the main reason I haven't uninvited him yet. She keeps saying I need to have a relationship with him and be more understanding. He knows because he asked, and we figured he was trying to avoid being on the same flight as her." Well, to be honest, guys, I just find this really sad. It just sounds as if your mum is a wonderful, wonderful person who's just been completely trodden on for who knows how many years by your dad. Yeah, obviously, the affairs are obvious. That is clear. But, you know, more minuscule things, like her just pandering to him, I can imagine, and him wanting to do something, her in reality wanting to do something else, but always having to do what he wants, etc., etc. You can see this sort of emotional abuse that must have been going on throughout their relationship. And I think it's come up here. The way she is still saying, no, you guys need to have a relationship with him. She's clearly a lovely person, but does she really think that? Now that she can clearly, obviously see that he's just a terrible person. Like, the plane thing sums it all up. He is actively trying to get his new wife on the same flight as his old one to rub her in her face. What a terrible person. What, and then she just goes shopping? Ridiculous. The only reason why he would possibly want to get on the same flight as her is just to show off. It's disgraceful. And look, your mum sounds like a wonderful, wonderful person, but I actually do think at this point you need to protect her and say, you know what, mum, he is not coming anymore. He's not getting the same flight as you. He's not getting any flight. He's just not invited. You can bring your boyfriend. I don't care. Like, I'll see my dad another time. That's between us. It's unfair on you. Now, there is actually one more update to this posted after the wedding that comes from December the 17th, 2023. Let's get into that. The wedding has happened. It just took a bit of time to update because it's my life and it all went south and was too raw to try to write in a coherent way. It still probably won't be super coherent. Oh no. Well, spoiler alert, my dad got uninvited. Well, that is good news, I have to say. OP then just quickly sums up exactly what has happened so far. My dad was acting weird around the wedding. Turns out he told his new wife she was invited when she was not. When it got close to the wedding and I told him to tell her, he got his wife a flight with him so she wouldn't feel left out, and then purposefully chose to be on the same flight as my mum so that my mum and his new wife could meet, in inverted commas. OP importantly then says he has a vindictive streak, so we knew he was trying to upset my mum. Alright, so the update. I asked him to change his flight because he had specifically asked me what flight my mum was on so he could avoid her. That's the words he had said. And my mum was flying with my grandpa, so it would have been quite hard to change their flights to avoid him. Okay, that right there just proves he's vindictive. Outright lying to his kids to be on the same flight as his ex-wife by saying, I want to avoid her. Disgraceful human being. My dad told me he'd changed the flights and that he'd invent some lie to tell Eva. He also said I was a horrible person for not believing him when he told me that he had not booked the flight out of spite, but he told my mum he booked the flight on purpose so that she could meet his new wife And what reason would there be for wanting them to meet other than to be a jerk? True, and also, they could meet at any other point, couldn't they? Why does it have to be on the plane on the way to your daughter's wedding? Ridiculous. I thought the whole thing was resolved, and my mum really was adamant that she wanted my dad to be there because I don't have a great relationship with him, and she knew it would have meant the end of the relationship if I uninvited him. Fast forward to 2 days after the conversation. My dad rebooked his flight and sent me a message to say he had changed flights. Then that evening, he calls me. I answered the phone and I could hear someone screaming down it. It turns out that Eva got her hands on my dad's phone, read the messages where I asked him to reschedule the flight, and she rang me, shouting down the phone that I am unhinged, I'm a horrible person, I'm effed in the head. She said that I'm so weird because I'm in my 30s and I still talk to my parents. This one was really weird. Am I meant to stop at a certain age? And that I'm jealous of the fact that my dad has a new life. I was very calm and said that I'm sorry she is upset, that the issues around the wedding aren't really related to her directly, and that my dad was trying to upset my mum. I also said my mum's partner is not coming either, so it wouldn't be fair to have her there. She started shouting that my mum was a fat old cow, and I lost it. I absolutely lost it. In this whole thing, my mum has said nothing bad about Eva. I told her I never had any issue with her until now, but that she is a crazy female dog who is super controlling and that I was so glad I never invited her. Then I hung up because by that stage it had been 2 minutes of her shouting at me and I didn't feel like there was any point in talking any longer. The whole time this was going on, my dad was in the background saying feebly, "Oh no, don't be mad," at her, while she was shouting down the phone at me. Anyway, next day my dad calls me and says that Eva was upset because he didn't tell her about changing the flights and that I was awful for responding to her like that. He also said, "Do you really think this is my fault?" And I said yes. And he said, "Do you really refuse to take any responsibility? None of this would have happened if you'd invited her like I asked you to." And I said, does he actually think he has any say in my wedding when he didn't even ask me what type of ceremony I was having, never asked to see my dress, or get involved in any way, monetary or otherwise? He asked me if he was still invited, and I said, obviously not. He then told me to be careful what I wrote in my messages to him because she was monitoring his phone, and I said I'm not speaking to him again, so that won't be a problem. The wedding was good. My mum walked me down the aisle and there was nobody there to cause drama, so in the end it all worked out for the best. The whole thing was just a lot more dramatic than I originally thought it would be. We thought he might end up not coming because he was too entangled in his lies, but for sure I did not expect that call I got. And it was very close to the wedding when all the drama happened. Okay, so there was at least a good conclusion to this. The wedding went as well as expected. That is good. And ultimately, that is the most important thing. So as long as the wedding went well, I mean, look, there's probably always going to be some sort of drama around a wedding. That's good. We can at least relax a little bit around that. I mean, imagine if he'd come storming in last minute with Eva. That could have been truly awful for absolutely everyone. So that's a little positive at the very least. But again, the person who I really do feel the worst for in this is OP's mum. She just seems like such a kind, genuine person that has just been, as I said earlier, trampled on by OP's dad. It's so sad. She just deserves a lot better than this. But again, at least she got to experience a nice wedding of her daughter, walking her daughter down the aisle. Yeah, probably not what she imagined, but nice nonetheless. I actually feel worse for your mum, OP, than you, because I feel like you are just better equipped to be able to deal with this. You've shown throughout this entire story that you're pretty strong and you don't really necessarily care what other people say. If you think a certain thing, then you're going to do it. And I respect that a lot, even when it comes to people in your close family. Fair play to you. And I completely agree with what you've done at the end there as well. Saying to your dad, there's no point. I'm not going to message you anyway, so who cares who sees it? Your dad remains an embarrassment. Imagine saying to your own daughter, by the way, can you not text me? Because, yeah, my new wife checks my phone when I'm not looking and she might see it. I mean, come on. What is wrong with your life to say something like that? And Eva is obviously just a horrible witch. But yeah, I just hope your mum has a nice rest of her life. She is my favourite amongst all of us. Am I the jerk for saying that I won't attend my sister's wedding if she invited our father? Now, this was originally posted on February the 11th, 2024. I am a 27-year-old man, and my 25-year-old sister is going to get married in April. They are already planning for their wedding. We grew up with our uncle, mum's brother. Our mum, who is 45, due to a stroke, wasn't physically able to do many things. She needed help, but it was more than enough. Our father, who is 53, was abusive towards our mum, but not us. She is physically weak, she has a weak build, my students might even be stronger. She's always been that way, even as a kid. This made it easier to mistreat her. After the court forced a divorce, he continued to contact us and, in air quotes, be there for us. I rejected all the money he used to send. My sister, though, didn't. She was contacting him and has a relationship with him. I asked her to pretend that she doesn't when mum is around. I asked my sister who will walk her down the aisle. Is it our mum, uncle, or me? She hesitated to answer, but said she'd invite our dad. We argued about that, and I said that if he took one step in there, I'm out. She said I'm being a jerk for giving her an ultimatum. She can invite the Pope if she wants, but I am free to not attend a wedding that makes me unhappy. Alright, let's get straight into some comments on this. Someone says, you're not the jerk here, just decline. She has already sold her soul for your dad's money. I wonder if her fiance knows. OP replied, I don't think he knows. My sister told him that I gave her an ultimatum, so he contacted me. He did sound like he didn't know. Someone else said, you're not the jerk. You don't have to attend, but don't give the ultimatum. Just decline the invite. Your sister is a grown adult and her relationships are her own business. OP replied, we had an argument about it. I said that I wasn't coming. She tried to say that I couldn't not attend her wedding since we are only 2 siblings, and eventually then I gave the ultimatum. Someone else said, you're not the jerk. Who she invites though is her business. What events you attend or not, along with the reason behind it, is your business. Was she not old enough to remember the abuse of your father, or is the money he gives her more important to her than her mother? OP replies, when the court forced a divorce, I was 13 and she was 11. I don't want to say that she valued the money more, but I don't know why she is still in contact with him. That is a fair point. How could you possibly be in contact with someone that did that to your mum? I personally could never do that. Another Redditor asked, is your mother also coming to the wedding? Because if she is, as I would expect her to be invited, that's an incredibly trashy position for your sister to put your mum in, especially if she just springs it on your mum without giving her proper notice. I don't imagine the stress of having to interact with your former abuser and see him lauded around and given all the privileges of an involved and loving father, despite not having had much part in raising the bride, would be good for anyone's health, let alone someone as fragile as your mother. You're not the jerk, by the way. Again, your sister has every right to invite whoever she wants to her wedding, and you have every right to choose whether or not you want to attend. Just be prepared for lots of guilt tripping and irreparable harm done to your relationship with your sister, though it is equally her fault if your relationship is damaged, as you seem to have always been transparent on your stance regarding your biological dad. OP says that he hasn't told her that yet. I don't know how to go about it because it did hurt me, but it surely will hurt her more, though my mum is good at enduring. I wouldn't be surprised if she agrees to attend and force a smile if my sister says she needs her there. And finally, someone asked, why do you keep saying that the courts forced the divorce? Wasn't the money he sent court ordered for your support? And how did your mother get full custody given that she is physically unable to care for you? The divorce was an order by the court, OP replies. My uncle was the one who filed the case, not my mum. She couldn't. The money was ordered but not exactly forced, meaning that the court told him to send insert amount to each of us. But neither my uncle nor my mum filed a case demanding money. They both said they are financially able to do that alone. At that time, she hadn't yet had the stroke, but she was injured. She was granted full custody regardless, which is unusual due to the circumstances, abuse, and some threats of his. Threatened to take custody and harm us if she tried. I don't know if courts always do that, but they listened to us and what we had to say. Okay, I think that's pretty cut and dry, to be honest. It's pretty clear that OP is not the jerk here at all, but I do also agree slightly with the commenters who said you can decide what you want to do, but also your sister can decide what she wants to do. It is ultimately her wedding. Now, that is a fair point, I concede, but I also really do have to question your sister's integrity and her as a person. I mean, can she not see that the abuse of her own mother is far more important than her getting a little bit of money from her dad? I don't know. I don't know where her moral compass is, clearly not in the best spot. So personally, I would really try and reason with her and say, are you sure that you really want to do this? Jeopardize, well, I mean, to be fair, it's already too far gone. She should have stopped, like you did, talking to your dad at all years and years ago. Maybe that was the time to tell her that, you know, what are you doing? Why are you still in contact? Why are you taking money? You need to not take any money like the rest of the family are doing. from this horrible monster. But nonetheless, maybe that time's gone now, and maybe, yeah, you just have to let her do what she does and don't give her an ultimatum. Although I feel like you're giving her an ultimatum on behalf of your mum, which is completely fair. It's not really you, is it? It's your mum and your uncle as well who've had to suffer through all of this. I don't know. I think your sister has to take a look at herself, but ultimately, yeah, it is still her wedding. All right, let's get into the one and only update on this one from February the 29th. So what is that? A couple of weeks after the initial post. I decided to tell my mother and uncle about my sister's decision. My uncle was mad. He did not expect her to decide to invite our dad, or even make him walk her down the aisle. He wanted to call my sister, but I told him not to. Not now, at least. We went to tell my mum, and she was confused. I had to explain that my sister had a relationship with him, but I told her to hide it, and she was good at that. Until this age, my mother hadn't found out until I told her. Wow. Was that revealed in the first post? Did I miss that? I don't think I did. I did not realize that. Your mum never knew the entire time about her daughter's relationship with her ex. That's mad. I told her about her decision, and she asked, but why? I just said, I don't know. She looked disappointed because she wanted to attend the wedding, but now she's decided not to. I told my sister that we've all declined the invitations. She asked me to please convince them, but I refused. I told her to not try to make anyone feel forced to attend, not our mother. She did not respond and ended the call. Since then, I don't know whether she's tried to convince our uncle or our mother. I haven't heard anything from anyone regarding that. Not my sister, uncle, nor my mother. And there we go. That is the end of that one. I think it's best to leave that story with this one final comment. Someone says, hugs to your mother from a fellow survivor of DV. What your sister did was wrong. I'm not sure if there would be any coming back from this. You and your uncle can be there for your mother. Tell your sister that she better be careful about her actions having consequences that she hadn't thought about. You know what they say about karma. And there we go. I don't think I honestly could have summed this one up better myself. Completely agree with that comment. Now, speaking of actions that have karmic responses later down the line, let's get into our second story of this episode. I am a 29-year-old man, and my girlfriend, who is 30, did not tell me about her previous situationship with a friend that she was planning a 6-week backpacking trip with. This was originally posted just a week and a half ago at the time of recording on February 27th. My girlfriend and I dated for half of 2022, then broke up. After about 1.5 years apart, we got back together last winter and have been together again for about 3 months. During that year we were apart, she had a relationship with a co-worker who she was also living with. She called it a situationship. Also during that year, they backpacked several hundreds of miles of the PCT together. They both moved to separate cities last fall after the hike, but decided to remain friends and made plans to return to hike another several hundred miles of the PCT this upcoming summer. My girlfriend and I started talking again last fall, about 1 month after they parted ways. While we were talking, she invited me to join them over summer, and I planned to join for part of it, about 4 weeks. She never mentioned that they had any romantic relationship while telling me about her time living with him and his family, or her time backpacking with him. I thought they were just friends. Pretty soon after officially getting back together a few months ago, we were discussing boundaries, and I told her explicitly that I expected her to tell me if she had any romantic history with any friends who are currently still in her life, especially if me and her were going to spend time with said person. She acknowledged how I felt and I appreciated it, but didn't mention anything about them. Well, great acknowledgement right there. That's pretty much just like saying, yeah, you know what, I acknowledge exactly what you're saying, but I'm going to do nothing about it. A month later, we were discussing how the summer hiking trip would go with the three of us. They'd be hiking without me for the first couple or few weeks. We were discussing the tent situation, and she mentioned wanting to sleep in a separate tent to him during the part of the trip that it was the two of them. I was confused, and I asked why, since it made more sense for them to share a tent, splitting the weight of a 2-person tent, and then me and her could have our own tent when I joined them. She seemed kind of meh on the idea of them sharing, but didn't tell me why. In retrospect, it seems likely she herself wasn't comfortable with the idea of sharing a tent with a former partner without telling me about their history. She recently told me about their history, and I am very hurt. Of course, everyone has a right to their own past, and I don't want or need to know every detail of every guy she's ever been with, but I feel very betrayed that she would hide her history with someone that she was going to spend so much alone time with and invited me to spend time with them without telling me. To me, it feels very relevant to know this information when it comes to former partners who are currently in both of our lives in a big way. For example, spending 100% of every day together for 6 weeks. I directly told her I felt this way, but she ignored me and omitted the information. Exactly. It's not that big of a deal. In fact, it's not a deal at all that she had a past situationship with someone that is still in her life, even despite the fact they might be going on holiday together. You know, you can probably work through that. The problem is that she lied about it. That is the issue. I'm really hurt by what is happening and feel like it will be hard to trust her moving forward. From her perspective, I can understand that if she was afraid I would break up with her after hearing this, she wouldn't want to tell me, but I don't know why she'd be worried about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with being friends with your exes. She is good friends with another ex of hers. She would put him at 1 or 2 in terms of closest friends. She told me, and I'm totally fine with it. Exactly, there you go. I'm unsure about how to think about our future, and I'd love to hear some outside opinions. Thanks. All right, let's get on to the people of Reddit's comments. Someone said, she is going hiking with a former boyfriend with whom she lived with and broke up because they moved cities. A lot of red flags in the post. How is she acting after you told her how you felt? I can understand being friends with an ex, but this seems very extreme. OP says, I don't know the details of their relationship as I just found out today. I just tried listing the facts. I'm not sure exactly why they stopped seeing each other. I haven't talked to her about it besides hearing her tell me and apologize for keeping it a secret. She also said she knows it was very disrespectful and wants to do anything to keep us together. After she told me, I just said I needed space to think and I haven't contacted her since. The same person replied, definitely getting more context is needed. I personally think that one-to-one trips like this with a recent ex is a boundary I wouldn't be comfortable with, especially without knowing the details of their relationship. They were obviously at a stage that they were living together. Being friends with exes is totally okay, but this just seems strange. Like, have you ever met her ex? Is she FaceTiming and calling this person a lot? This seems like a trip that you would have with a very good friend, not an ex-boyfriend from under a year ago. Are they really that good of friends? Are you comfortable with that? Personally, I'd proceed with a lot of caution. I'd probably have a hard time trusting a trip like this, and I'm not even sure how you could set boundaries for this. Wow, I completely agree with everything that this user has just said. OP clarifies they were a situationship, as I wrote in the original post. She moved to a small town for work and couldn't find a place to live. He was a co-worker who lived with his family in this small town, and she ended up living with him and his family, and somehow something romantic came out of that. That's what I know. I'm not interested in asking her for more details. I've never met the guy. She texts him occasionally and recently complained to me that he hasn't been responding to her texts that much since he moved to his new city and got new friends. This is before I knew they were a thing. Okay, that is weird. She was also upset when he expressed uncertainty in joining for the summer hiking trip, which surely happened after he learned that I was the new boyfriend and that I'd be going. Oh my goodness me. Talk about red flags there, guys. Okay, well that last sort of paragraph there, that response is all I need to say this is very dodgy. Now, I think there is a world in which potentially, if you are so secure in yourself and your relationship, you can say, you know what, yeah, I trust you, go off. You can go on holiday for a little bit of time with an ex of yours. I'm not sure that I'd be able to do that personally. I mean, I definitely couldn't. I think that is over the line. I mean, yeah, being friends with an ex is one thing. Going on holiday under a year after you've been with them, very, very dodgy when it's a one-on-one trip. And yeah, I mean, the response we just had here from her ex situationship, whatever you want to call him. Oh, you know what? I'm actually not quite sure I want to go anymore if your boyfriend's going to join us. What was your plan the whole time then, my friend? That right there has shown to me what the real intentions probably of both of them are. But importantly, we do have an update to get into. Just 2 days later, this was posted by OP. I talked to her last night about the situation. She was very apologetic and admitted she made a huge mistake and betrayed my trust, vowing to never do that again. She said the reason she eventually told me was because she couldn't hold the guilt in anymore from not telling me. Interestingly, when I used the word lied, she argued with it at first, claiming she didn't, but then quickly changed her mind when I pushed her on it. I asked why she felt like she needed to not tell me about her history with him. She said it was because she knew I was going to get mad. She didn't bring up anything specific that I did to give a reason to think this, it was just a general feeling. She pointed out that she felt confused about whether I wanted to know about their history or not, because earlier in the same conversation that I told her I wanted to know which of her friends were exes, months ago, I also cut her off when we were talking about our year apart, and she started a sentence with, I had a lot of situationships. I got uncomfortable and I interrupted her, saying I didn't need to know that. I regret how I acted in that moment. I didn't yell or get mad, but I was uncomfortable and I shut down the conversation about that topic. I should have let her finish her sentence at least. And it probably made her feel that I was overly sensitive about her past. Okay, fair enough. She said that because of this, she thought I didn't want to know about the hiking friend from last year. To me though, it just feels like there's no inconsistency, not wanting to hear your partner say, I slept with a lot of people in the year we were apart, and wanting to hear them say, I slept with the guy who I'm friends with and we're about to hike with for 4 weeks. Also, if she actually thought I didn't want to know their history, then why does she feel so guilty not telling me? Great points. I'm on board with all of that. I'd also like to point out that our relationship in 2022 ended when I dumped her unexpectedly, and I treated her very coldly the night we broke up. I had a lot of pent-up feelings about how she was treating me that year. I can totally see how her fear of being dumped suddenly again had kept her from wanting to mention her relationship with this guy. It would make sense that she was afraid of me abandoning her again. Well, now I'm flipped back the other way. With every passing paragraph here, guys, my opinion on this whole thing is changing. It all makes sense, but the added context is really changing my thoughts. At this point in the conversation, I was understanding of what she did. She apologized in a way that felt genuine, and I felt like we could work through it. Then I started digging a little deeper to see if I was still missing anything about the situation. I forgot to mention in my last post, but a few weeks ago, she told me that her ex basically bailed on the hike for the summer. It was very likely he wouldn't be able to go. She told me at the time it was because he couldn't afford it. Around the same time, she also complained to me that he wasn't texting her back, and she was annoyed because she felt like he didn't want to be friends with her anymore now that they didn't live in the same city. Now, thinking they were only ever friends, I thought that made sense. I would feel sad if my friends didn't talk to me much after moving. Yesterday, when I confronted her about all of this, I asked again why he couldn't come, and she said again it was because he couldn't afford it. I asked her if she believed him, and she said yes. Then I asked her if he was okay with her inviting me on the trail. She revealed that he actually didn't like the idea of me coming, but he was mainly bailing because of money. I asked to read their text conversation about it, and she agreed. In it, her ex at first pointed out to her that he couldn't afford the trip, but then he also brought up that he didn't like the idea of hiking with me. He said he felt jealous, even though he knows that her and him were just a temporary thing last year, and he wished I weren't joining them on the trail because the PCT was their thing. There were a lot of words, but he was using phrases like, I feel a pit in my stomach, and things along those lines. He also said he felt like a placeholder since their temporary relationship was sandwiched between me and her first dating in 2022, and then of course getting back together. She told him that she was upset that he couldn't disentangle their past relationship from their current friendship. She agreed with him that hiking the PCT was indeed their thing, and said that she wished I wouldn't come because she felt like I wasn't a great partner for the trail. I'm faster than them, and she said she thought I might get impatient, okay. Or at least that she could hike alone with him for the first half, and then alone with me for the second half, so that we wouldn't have to meet. The situation was finally made clear from reading their messages. She wanted to keep this guy in her life, even though he wasn't over her. He confessed all this to her a month ago, and she kept it a secret from me. She lied about the nature of their relationship because she knew I wouldn't be okay with them being friends, given that there was still something there. Also, a few months ago, before we were officially dating again, but just talking every day, when she initially asked him if I could join their hike this summer, she didn't use my name. She just said, my friend. This is another lie by omission, this time to her ex, to prevent him from knowing the truth about the whole situation. Obviously, eventually she told him I was the friend, and then later he decided he didn't want to join. During the whole conversation that night, the point I was making was that her omitting their history in order to protect herself hurt my feelings and made me not trust her. And during the conversation last night, she tried again to omit information to protect herself, when she claimed that he only bailed because he didn't have enough money. I wouldn't have even known that he still had romantic feelings about her if I hadn't asked to read her texts, because she omitted that again. I dumped her after that. I respect myself too much to stay in a relationship with someone who is comfortable repeatedly lying to my face in order to get her way, especially about such an important topic so early on in the relationship. To those who gave insightful, nuanced advice, thank you. I learned a lot from this entire situation, and I know how to handle these topics better in future relationships. To the one person who suggested that I ask to read their text, I can't thank you enough for helping me dodge this bullet. Wow, that is crazy. So it was actually a Redditor who commented saying, have you tried asking to read her text? And therefore, obviously, you gain the context that you needed to realize that her ex was just not happy going as a friend, will probably never be happy being her friend. And yeah, obviously the whole time, if he's saying that he's going to be jealous, then this is just not a good sign. I agree with the reasons, by the way, for dumping her. Make complete sense. If someone's going to outright lie to you this early on in a relationship, I mean, it doesn't matter when in a relationship, but it's not a great sign if it's coming this early. I was going to kind of say that, you know what, if you did cut her off in the past when she was going to talk about her situationships and that's why she doesn't feel comfortable doing it, then maybe that's okay. But then you said, obviously, and you're right, there is a big difference between saying, oh, I slept with loads of guys when we weren't together, and failing to mention that one of her close friends was one of those situationships who she wants to go on holiday or hiking with and then include you. So yeah, overall, there's no way you're the jerk, by the way, and I completely understand your reasons for dumping her. Sad, but I think you've made the right decision. Am I wrong for cancelling our wedding? We have been engaged for 3 years. My fiance just went on a trip of a lifetime, 6 weeks in Europe. She decided that she would take a break in our relationship, allowing me no input in the decision. I called her the day she left and she had me blocked. So I cancelled our marriage and her moving in with me in March. She called me today to inform me of her arrival time on Thursday morning, to which I answered, what does that have to do with me? And I've since blocked her. Just to explain a little bit further, I was fine with her trip. It was with her old college sisters. In fact, I dropped her at the airport and took her to boarding. That is when she dropped the whole break thing on me. She didn't explain it, just told me matter-of-factly and left. I called her the rest of the day and tried to call her when I was able to the rest of the week. After 5 days of ignoring me, I'd had enough and the wedding was off. She can move in with someone else because it's not going to be me. Wow, no messing about with this post. Let's just get straight into the update. Well, update-ish, says OP. We have a group chat among people close to us. Today, I informed them all that our marriage is cancelled and our relationship is over. I did that at about 10 a.m. By the way, this was posted just 1 day later on February 28th. The chat quite literally exploded. It started with questions about what happened, which I answered honestly. At about 2 p.m, she started just asking me to call her so we could discuss this. I told her that talking on chat is perfectly fine, but she said no. This is something between just us. I still haven't replied to her latest message from her, which was at 6 o'clock. Please put me up at the airport so we can talk this out as we planned, she said. Instead, I answered, that was your plan, not mine. None of this was my plan. Her flight is at 9 a.m. I wish her luck. Okay, now let's get into some comments to try and further understand exactly what is going on here. Somebody asked, exactly what did she say to you before going on the trip? OP says, she said that for the duration of the trip, we are taking a break from our relationship. I got angry and of course asked her what the heck does that mean? She said we'd talk about it when she got back. She waited until she was boarding to tell me about the break part. I was okay with the trip up until then. Again, she was going with 5 girls from college. Somebody replied, that is absolutely wild that she did that. Has she done stuff like this before? No, this was a first. I felt very ambushed for her telling me about the break as she was about to board for her flight out. Someone else asked, please follow up. Unless she is still blocked, what is her reaction? I guess if it were me and my partner wanted to take a 6-week break like that, I would dump them too. If I was asked why, I would say that they had been blocked from their life for 6 weeks, and I decided that I wasn't okay with that, and much more. But what about your family and friends? Is anyone trying to defend her? Yeah, it seems she's called a few friends in our circle. They started blowing up my phone last night, asking what is going on. Someone else asked, does OP's family know? And OP said that he told his parents immediately and they were shocked. With our friends, I waited, and I shouldn't have, but I was embarrassed and depressed. I spent most of the last few weeks feeling sorry for myself and pain shopping. I sent out a message to our group chat informing them that our wedding and relationship are off, and my phone has been blowing up ever since. Someone else asked exactly what happened with OP being blocked on social media and his ex's social media presence over those 6 weeks. OP said he was blocked everywhere that he could think of, and that this is from a woman who posts pics of her breakfast. So she posted no pics of a huge 6-week vacation. It's a straight up cover up. Oh wow. That's clear that something fishy is going on. And then finally, on getting the ring back, it was OP's grandmother's, so of course he wants it back. He has a plan. He's going to make it a term of her getting a face-to-face talk like she wants. And yes, it's going to be in a public place, thinking of a coffee shop. Okay, a lot to unpack there. Clearly a lot going on. I think the best thing to do is get straight into the second update, which comes 1 day later, February 29th. First off, I got my ring back and it's safe with my mum. Secondly, I would like to thank everyone for keeping me grounded while I was doubting myself. I'm not sure who said it, but someone said that I shouldn't bother with what she did in her trip and focus on her breaking up with me at the airport, which I did, and it was not what she was prepared to argue about, so now she knows how it feels to be blindsided also. It seems her college sisters told her I would be insecure and fight about something that I couldn't hope to prove, so when I didn't, she had no idea what to do. At one point, she excused herself to go to the restroom and didn't come back for 20 minutes. It seems the brain trust was at a loss too. Somebody asked, did she attempt to explain or justify her springing a brake on you as she boards the plane or blocking you on everything? OP said she even tried to change the subject to what happened on the trip instead of just to what happened between us at the airport. That is what she was prepared for. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's clever from OP actually, good tactics. If you just don't even talk about the trip, because realistically, it's not actually that important what she did, more the fact that, yeah, she just blocked you, said, I'm breaking up with you for 6 weeks, then didn't talk to you that entire time. Who cares what she got up to? That, I agree, is worth breaking up with your fiance over. Someone else asked, and I think this is a good point actually, how far did you let her get? I admit I am a little interested in the story they came up with. I agree, because right now we have no idea, first of all, what they were doing on holiday, and secondly, what sort of excuse or what fake story they were going to come up with to try and get you back. I'm not even sure what the plan was, but yeah, I would have loved to hear an excuse. But OP says, I told her what she did after she broke up with me wasn't any of my business, so I couldn't care less. Have her parents reached out, someone said. Spoke with her parents last night. They woke me up. They must have forgotten about the time difference between coasts. They offered to pay for couples therapy to help us work through this rough patch, as her mother called it. I told them no thank you. She ended our relationship. Do her parents know the truth? Well, my ex told them a watered down version where I am overreacting, but then I told them exactly what happened. My ex made out that while on vacation, she would be unavailable to communicate with, whereas I told them exactly what she really said. Someone asked, has OP checked her social media since? I, stupidly, I know, checked to see if I was still blocked on her socials. And amazingly, yesterday, she posted 30 pictures from her trip and a full recap of what they did and saw. The pictures are of places in France, Italy, and Spain. Most are group shots with all 6 of them like tourist style ones, and others are churches and museums and a few shops, all during the day like a tour or something. Just to confirm who her friends were on the trip, these were her college sorority sisters that chat on Facebook Messenger, but they're few and far between. I've only met 2 of them a few times, and they were nice enough to me. OP continues speaking about his ex, saying it's funny how a woman can do creepy stalker stuff and it's fine, but if a guy does the same thing, he's going straight to jail. It's baffling to me. His ex is leaving letters for me with people she knows I will interact with, like the security guy at my building, my receptionist at work. The letters themselves are little more than pleading with me to not throw us away for nothing and professing her love for me. Yeah, great point. Imagine if that was the other way around. You'd be charged with some form of harassment or, stalking or assault. I don't know, but yeah, you're getting charged with something. OP then says that he's heading to Scotland for a vacation. He's leaving on Monday, and my old college roommate lives in Edinburgh, so I'm going to do some pub crawling with him and see if Scottish food is really a dare. Not entirely sure what he means by that, but the editor of this episode is Scottish. I wonder if he knows what a dare means, or if Scottish food is really what people say it is. Also, I would like to thank everyone for helping me stand back up. I was depressed and feeling quite worthless. I leave tomorrow for my first trip across the pond, I think they say. I'm gonna nerd out with my buddy and explore Edinburgh, which in the pics I looked at seems amazing. I'll try to keep my Reddit family updated as much as I can. Once again, thank you all so much. And now we have one final interaction between another Redditor and OP. This person asked, has she tried calling you again? She is blocked, OP says, but keeps asking in the group chat for me to please call her. I've got to say, I love how a lot of this sort of debate and argument is happening in a public group chat. Well, at least public with your friends, and you're not just doing this in private. It's good for you, to be fair, because you've done nothing wrong, and you might as well let everyone else know what's going on and make it even more embarrassing for her than it already is. Oh, look, OP actually continues here. She is starting to take a beating in the group chat. It seems the shock has worn off, and our friends are realizing how screwed up what she did really was. That same Redditor replies exactly what she deserved. She keeps apologizing, but it's not what she is apologizing for. She can't even defend herself without making it worse, which would be funny if it wasn't me on the receiving end of this trash. And if she doesn't drop out of the chat group, our friends are really starting to give her stuff about it. She keeps saying she's sorry and that as soon as I'm ready to talk and work through this, she'll be waiting. But she's now confirmed that she did ghost me, since she apologized for it on our group chat last night. She's spinning that she was getting nervous about the wedding and wanted some time off to think. And therefore, because she was so nervous, she decided to go away without telling you for 6 weeks with some random friends from college and just block you and everything and not even speak to you. That is great logic. I think realistically, we probably all know what's going on here, right? She just wanted a break from you. I mean, she phrased it as that, but in reality, I think she just wanted to go away with her pals, probably technically cheat on you, and therefore maybe get away with it because she was on a break, although she enforced it herself, and then come back and just settle for you and move on and continue with your life. Completely deluded, of course, but I do feel like that was probably what her weird sort of plan was. I don't know how she ever thought that was going to work, and it didn't work, but I think that was her idea. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me on that. That's just what I was thinking throughout the entire thing. I've got to say, absolutely stupid from her, but a funny story. Although, yeah, I do feel bad for OP. That is Reddit. Anyway, let's move on. I've got another phenomenal wedding story for you. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sister-in-law at my wedding and telling her no one cares that she is pregnant? Now, this was originally posted on February 20th, 2024. My husband, who is 30, and I, a 26-year-old woman, got married during COVID. We couldn't have a big ceremony because of restrictions, and unfortunately, my family couldn't be present as they live in a different country. With restrictions finally lifted, we decided to have a more traditional ceremony in my home country with my family. My husband's family came, his parents, some friends, cousins, and his sister. Now, she is 32, we'll call her Sarah, along with her husband, who is 28, we'll call him Matt. Sarah and Matt live on the other side of the US than the rest of the family. They had their wedding a couple of months back in their home state, and even since then, when we have a conversation, even without our wedding coming up, Sarah would say that she and Matt are planning to get pregnant on the trip for my husband and I's wedding. No big deal, I just made sure to tell her that she needs to ovulate for that to happen, but other than that, I couldn't care less. What started to get annoying is when we were talking about all the activities or excursions that people wanted to do so they could go ahead and book it, Sarah would always say, make sure there's enough time for Matt and I at the hotel so we can get busy making our baby. Again, kind of gross, a little annoying, but whatever, they are grown-ups. I've got to interject here and say I was not expecting this from the title. I thought she would already be pregnant. This is just so weird. Anyway, about a week before we all leave to go to my home country, Sarah and Matt arrive in our home state to spend time with the family as they rarely see them. My husband and I, his parents, and my husband's brother and sister-in-law are sitting chatting when Sarah blurts out that she is pregnant. We all get really excited, congratulate them, and say how happy we are. We start asking some questions, and Sarah says she is 2 weeks pregnant. Everyone then kind of loses a little bit of excitement and says, wow, that's really early. We suggest to wait before telling other people. Just a lot can happen. People usually don't even know they're pregnant until at least 6 weeks, and even then, they're encouraged to wait until after the first trimester to tell people. My brother and sister-in-law were very happy and excited for them, but cautioned them even more, as they have experienced multiple miscarriages before having their first child. Matt replied by saying they are only telling the people closest to them, for example his parents, her parents, and her siblings. No one else, since it is so early. Well, the next day, Sarah called her great uncle and his wife over for drinks and decided to tell them too. She called her one aunt and uncle and told them, and by the end of the day, basically the entire extended family knew, as well as some of her mum's friends who stopped by the house, and Sarah told them too. With each person Sarah told, Matt got more agitated, as they'd agreed to only tell a select few people. Matt finally gave up and asked her why she doesn't just post it on Facebook, as it will be quicker. To which she replied, she wants to, but she thinks it will be frowned upon. My husband came to me and said it feels like she is trying to draw the attention away from us and our wedding, as she is known to do anything and everything to have the spotlight on her. I said, don't worry about it. When we are in my home country, she isn't going to know many people, so she won't say anything. He agreed, but went to his parents and told them what he was feeling, and asked if they could politely suggest that she keep it to herself when we left for the trip. They agreed that it was valid for him to feel that way, as they know she hates it if the focus is not on her. Anyway, we leave for the wedding and I see my mum for the second time in 5 years. Obviously, it was a very emotional reunion, but we wiped off our tears quickly and sat down for a meal with my husband's family. After I introduced her to everyone, the waiter takes our order, and the first thing Sarah says to my mum is, "Your daughter probably already told you, but I won't be drinking on this trip." My mum says that that's not a problem, you don't have to drink to have fun, and that Sarah will still have fun, even if she chooses not to drink. Sarah, though, interrupts my mum to tell her it's not by choice that she's not drinking, but that she is pregnant. Keep in mind, this is 10 minutes after she met my mum. My mum says congratulations and keeps on with another conversation. But Sarah interrupts my mum again and tells her that she is 2 weeks pregnant and just so excited. Now, my mum, who is in medicine, then tells Sarah the same thing that we did, that she should probably wait until she is in her second trimester to tell people, and Sarah completely ignores her. The same thing happens with my aunt, cousins, uncles, sister, and grandparents, all of whom she had never met before. My husband yet again speaks to his parents and asks them to please tell her to keep it private, because it feels as though she is purposefully trying to take the attention away from our wedding. They say they will talk to her. Matt actually comes up to us and apologizes, saying that he agrees that it's gotten out of hand and that the number of people that know is way more than the number they agreed upon. Fast forward, we are sitting eating while we wait for one of our excursions. A family that I lived with for 3 months when I first moved to my husband's country flew out for the wedding and met up with us for lunch. They have never met my sister-in-law. The wife and I are talking about the wedding and all the arrangements, while my sister-in-law sits across from us and listens to the conversation. My husband orders some shots for everyone at the table, when his mum says she doesn't want one, so he tells the server -1. My sister-in-law hears him ordering the shots and goes off yelling across the table, "I can't drink alcohol! You know I can't drink a shot! Why would you order me one?" Everyone kind of stops and looks at her for a second, before my husband says it's not a problem, as Matt said he wants to. Everyone then continues their conversation, including the wife and I. My sister-in-law interrupts me and continues to make a big fuss over how my husband ordered her alcohol when he knows she's not drinking. The wife then says it's okay because Matt said he'll drink it, so it's not going to waste. But she then says again how annoying it is that my husband ordered her a shot, and I just say to not worry because I'll just drink it if Matt doesn't want it. She keeps doing this until I finally tell the wife that she's not drinking because she is pregnant. The wife says congratulations, asks her how far she is, and then also tells her to be careful about telling too many people. This situation happens about 3 more times in the week leading up to the wedding. Now, this is why I could be the jerk here. The last time it happened, she was telling my high school friends at the wedding how sick she's been, but nobody asked why she was sick. They were just empathetic and saying they hope she feels better. They came over to me to talk to me, and she followed again, complaining about how sick she has been and kind of pushing them to ask why she's been feeling so sick. When I finally said, "Sarah, are you freaking kidding me? No one gives a dang that you are pregnant. They don't even know you." Sarah ran off crying, and my mother-in-law heard me say that and told my father-in-law, who screamed at my husband, saying how he hurt Sarah's feelings and how she's just excited. My husband doesn't think I did anything wrong, and my high school friends think that I was fine too because they know the backstory. But my mum and some of my husband's family think I was the jerk. So, am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that no one cares that she is pregnant? Now, before we get into my thoughts on this and that all-important update, first of all, some comments. Somebody said, 2 weeks pregnant just doesn't exist. If she's used the clear blue test that says 2 weeks, it actually means she is 4 weeks. Your weeks of pregnancy are dated from the first day of your last period. This means that in the first 2 weeks or so, you're not actually pregnant. Your body is preparing for ovulation, releasing an egg from one of your ovaries as usual. OP replied, saying that she said she knows when she got pregnant. It was their anniversary from when they started dating, and then she took a pregnancy test and it came back positive 2 weeks after the anniversary. She could also apparently feel when the implant of the egg happened. I mean, that has to be a load of absolute waffle. What the heck? I mean, I'm not a woman, and I've never been pregnant, sadly. But surely, guys, get in the comments. That's just not a thing, is it? Someone else said, here is the real problem. Her husband, her parents, even your husband should have told her off long before this reached your breaking point. You did nothing wrong, but apparently nearly everyone else was more than happy to play the role of enabler to this little princess. Someone else agrees, yeah, you're not the jerk. She just sounds insufferable. Is she the golden child? Yep, she never finished college after asking her dad to pay for 4 different colleges and degrees, and then still got a graduation present when she moved away to work on a ranch. She also gets an allowance for money every month from her father. Now, 9 days later, we got that all-important update, but before we get into that, I just have to say that I agree fully with all the commenters here. What is she doing? First of all, yeah, you can't be pregnant. I mean, you can't effectively say that you're pregnant that early, can you? I mean, 2 weeks. Surely you can't. You can't say I'm 2 weeks pregnant. No one's ever said that. Secondly, why would you do that? So much stuff can happen in that first trimester that can, ruin everything, sadly. So that is why people often do wait, or the majority of the time do wait until later down the line. Thirdly, if you are going to tell people and it is going to be really, really close family, then fair enough. But make sure that it still is only really, really close family. Don't tell great aunts and uncles and then they'll tell everyone else, and just now you're telling random people that haven't even met you. You might as well say, hi, my name is pregnant at this point. That's how much you care. And look, don't get me wrong. Being pregnant, I'm sure, is an amazing thing. But is it amazing enough to gloat to everyone? People you don't even know? No, it's not. I mean, maybe it is, but you just don't need to do that. Anyway, let's see what happens next. My husband and I finally had our honeymoon, and we were unreachable during our holiday because we were out of the country. Our whole family knew this before we left, and we told them the only way to reach us in an emergency was to call the hotel. We knew that Sarah was going in for her appointment while we were away, and we told her that we'd call her as soon as we got back home. My husband and I were out one day for the whole day from the hotel doing activities, and when we got back, we found a note on our room to say we have to go to reception. Once we got to reception, the person told us we had 7 missed calls from family and gave us a number to call. We didn't know who called or what about, but we thought it was an emergency. We called the number and it was Matt. He was very confused and asked why we were calling him on our honeymoon and asked if we were okay. Well, we said that the hotel said that this number called 7 times and asked him if everything was okay. Matt said everything was fine, but that Sarah wanted to talk to us. Oh, what a surprise. Matt called Sarah over and she asked us how we were having fun, etc. But we just wanted to know what was going on because we were so worried. Sarah said she went to the doctor and got some news. We asked if everything was okay because she kept not saying anything and we could hear her and Matt whispering to each other. We heard Matt say to her, "Did you seriously call the hotel 7 times to tell them this? It could have waited." Sarah finally gets back on the phone and said that the doctor said she was going to have twins. We said congratulations and asked if there was anything else. We thought again that it was an emergency. She said no, she just wanted to share the news because she is so excited and scared and she couldn't hold it in. She said she also called my mum and told her. They are friends on social media. My husband and I both just said we were very happy for them, but really didn't want to be bothered again if it was not an emergency. Sarah said we were being very rude and she just wanted to share the good news. We hung up because we had to get ready for dinner. When we got back into the US, my in-laws picked us up from the airport and were asking us if we spoke to Sarah. We said yes. She said she was having twins and we were very excited for them. My father-in-law then said that Sarah told them we were extremely rude to her and Matt and that we were dismissive and hung up the phone. We told them what really happened and they said that is not what Sarah has told the whole family. We are now back in our house and haven't spoken to Sarah or Matt. Matt texted us both, but the text only came through later. He said he was so sorry that they bothered us on our vacation and he felt horrible. We just text back saying it was all good and that we were very excited for both of them. All I can say about this whole situation is that I am very happy that we live on the other side of the country from Sarah. Okay, so that is the end of the story. But before I give my thoughts, and wow, I have a lot of thoughts to give, here is an additional comment from OP. I spoke to my mother-in-law today and like everyone said, Sarah didn't calculate her time right. Wow, I'm not, again, very surprised at all. She's actually about 8 to 9 weeks pregnant according to my mother-in-law. She is also having twins that were 2 eggs and 2 sperms. Not sure the medical name, each has their own sac. Now interestingly, someone asked this. Did your brother go with her to the doctor? Did he see the ultrasound? For some reason, women who fake pregnancies often claim they're having twins. Now, that isn't a super likely scenario, but this woman does sound pathologically desperate for attention. Maybe I've watched too many Dr. Phil episodes on women who fake pregnancies, but I'd reverse image search any ultrasound pictures that she sends or posts. And that is a thought that I hadn't even considered, but I guess it does make sense. If she is this keen for attention, who knows to what length she'd go to get it. Opie replied, I think Matt went with, yes. When we got back to the US, she did send a picture of the ultrasound. Now, I'm not a doctor or in the medical field at all, but it did look like 2 babies to me. Okay, so look, I'm probably just about happy enough to write that off as a possibility. That's maybe even a step too far for Sarah, although, I mean, honestly, who knows? She probably could do that. I just don't think that that's that likely. I do have to say, though, what a attention-seeking little mug she is. And I'm thinking the whole time, Matt, what are you doing to me? Why are you with a person like this? He knows. He clearly knows. He's like apologizing throughout the entire thing to his sister and to you know, her husband and the family in general. You know the sort of person that you're with and how just annoying and like horrible she is, clearly, and how attention seeking she can be. Just why? I'm sure you love her, but why? Does this not like just show you that she's just not the sort of person that you want to be with for the rest of your life? If everyone in the family is just saying she's so annoying, why is she doing this sort of thing? And OP is saying at the end, your sister is saying, I'm so happy I live as far away from her as I possibly can within the constraints of the same country. I don't know. I think that'd be a pretty good indication, but yeah, I guess he's sort of stuck with her now as she's pregnant. This bridezilla-to-be unbelievably has created a dress code for her wedding based on the weight of the guests. That's right. How much you weigh determines what you're allowed to wear to her wedding. Unbelievable, I know, but that is the case. Now, this all happened back on Facebook in 2018. So what you're going to see is some screenshots from the bride-to-be's Facebook page, and they are unbelievable. Let's get into them. Okay, so here is a screenshot from this bride-to-be's Facebook page, taken on the 5th of December, 2018. She posts the following. Hey everyone, who's ready for Hawaii 2019? In anticipation of the wedding, and believe me, I know it's a long way away, but 3 ring emojis. I would still like to announce the dress code. I'm giving you a long notice of 1.5 years so that you will have time to find and pick out something nice. The dress code is very specific because it will be used to create an incredible visual effect. If done right, it will make our synchronized dancing along the beach really pop. So, without further ado, women, 100 to 160 pounds. Oh my gosh. Green velvet sweater, orange suede pants, Louboutin heels, the famous red heeled shoes. When we spin and lift our feet, the effect will amaze you. And a Burberry scarf. Oh my goodness. So much to unpack there. I mean, what stands out is wearing a Burberry scarf in the summer in Hawaii. Men, 100 to 200 pounds. purple fuzzy jacket, soda hat, all white trainers, plain glow sticks. Once again, sounds like a truly awful costume. But don't worry, there's more. Women, £160 plus. All black sweater and pants, any material, black heels. And men, £200 plus, all camouflage, black sneakers. Yeah, the fat ones, we don't want to see you. Don't wear any color at all. We want you to blend in. And finally, children have to wear red from head to toe. Remember, the kids will form the shape of a heart. It needs to be true red, not blood orange or some other BS. Additionally, we will require that you wear formal attire after the dancing has ended. Please bring a change of clothing. Remember, the venue is extremely upscale and we want to be looking our absolute best, ladies and gents. 2 more ring emojis. Please, if you look like trash, so will we. But all jokes aside, we want you to invest in an outfit valued at least $1,000. This includes jewelry, accessories, makeup, and hair. Remember, ladies and gents, this wedding is 24K themed for a reason. You have a year and a half to get working. No excuses. Mwah. Well, that might just be the worst post I've ever seen on Facebook. I mean, so much to unpack here. Off the bat, the fact that you have a weight kind of class for what guests are allowed to wear at your wedding is genuinely sickening. I mean, it's almost like it's boxing, right? We have lightweight, you can wear colors. Heavyweight, you're not allowed to. What is that saying about heavier people? I mean, it's mental. Now, look, I get it. You probably have an idea of some dance you're going to do and it's going to look cool in your head. Turns out it won't, by the way. I mean, some of these outfits, can we just have a look at this? Sorry. A green velvet sweater, orange suede pants, and then red heeled shoes with a scarf on. What? That is the worst outfit of all time. I mean, the bride-to-be mentions an incredible visual effect, right? What is she trying to do? Give all the guests, like, a seizure? This is going to be so much colour. It's going to look disgusting. Also, forcing people to spend $1,000 on an outfit is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Insane start, but this isn't actually the end. I mean, look at this, right? This is what the normal guests are allowed to wear, okay? So you got the women on the left, the men on the right. I also don't know what a Pepsi hat is, so yeah, that's my best guess. Then the children have to wear all red, and then fat guests, yeah, you can come, but you don't have to. I guess you can come. We don't want to see you, though. Just make that abundantly clear. Okay, then, later that day, we got this from the bride-to-be. Clearly very angry, but another amazing Facebook post. Hello, invitees. A very important update. Please read. Oh, don't you worry, I will. It has come to my attention that someone went all the way down in this group's creation to screenshot the dress code requirements. The screenshot was taken wildly out of context and has now gone semi-viral on Facebook and Reddit. I've seen my post twice on my regular Facebook account. I could not be more crushed, betrayed, or saddened. I trust each and every one of you so intimately. Knowing that someone went behind my back and made fun of me is one of the worst feelings everywhere. And boy, will you be paying. Therefore, I'm announcing one of the most unique parties you will ever be invited to in your life, besides my actual wedding. In honor of the snitch who sold me out, I will be hosting the first ever polygraph party at my house this Saturday at 8 p.m. Bring your inner Sherlock Holmes because we will be hunting out the snitch who put me on blast. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. We just bought a real polygraph test for $99 on Amazon. After the testing is over and we find the rat who did this, we will all celebrate with drinks and appetizers. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. If you can't make it to the polygraph party, you will be presumed guilty unless you can provide a valid excuse. We can make this party a unique and good one that will be told for years to come. I promise, as long as you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about. Passive-aggressive smiley face emoji. I highly suggest whoever did this, just tell me. I won't retaliate. I'll simply cut all ties and communication with you and talk trash about you for a long, long time. If you have any information about who violated my trust and my wedding planning, I will give you $100. Next, if any of you are unhappy with the dress code requirements, it's okay. You can come talk to me. Instead of participating in the dance, you can help the crew clean up after dinner, volunteer to take videos of our dance, or even contribute to the honeymoon. Anything counts. Some fantastic options there. Either help the staff that are paid to clean up, contribute to the honeymoon as in pay the bride in order to help them go away, or video people. Wow. Let me just pick out the best one there really quick. Finally, I am outraged at the comments these internet trolls have made about the dress code. Capitals, do you freaking know me? Do you know why we are doing things this way? No? Then shut up. Go back down to your scum basement and play video games and never freaking make comments about people you don't know. My husband and I are certified spiritual healers with over 10 years of experience, and there it is. That explains everything. You all know this. Our wedding colours, fabrics, and intimate synchronized dance are something we hold very dear to our hearts. The expensive clothing represents the riches we wish to come. The black and camouflage outfits represents the aura of the devil that we must shoo away. Sorry, are you then saying, in a roundabout way, that slimmer people are the riches that you wish to come, and overweight or heavier people are the aura of the devil that you must shoo away? Surely that's not what she's inferring here, but I feel like it is. Oh my goodness. The soda hats represent our wishes for an abundance of life-saving liquid. You get the picture. We met at a psychic's desensitization chamber over 12 years ago in Italy. As you all know, why not bring our traditions and beliefs into our wedding? Probably because they're stupid. Would you show up at an Indian person's wedding and make fun of their culture and their tradition? If not, don't judge ours. Anyway, I'm so tired having to explain myself over and over. Please keep me updated. Well, if the Indian wedding forced you to dress in a certain way based on how fat you were, yes, I probably would have a problem with it. Shock. I don't even need to say this, but I've been to an Indian wedding. It was phenomenal. I mean, the culture, everything was fantastic. The ceremony was brilliant. Afterwards was a joke. It was so good. But this sounds awful. And I don't really think the two can be compared. Let's be realistic. By the way, believe what you believe. I'm genuinely, I'm pretty open with people that believe what they want to believe. Not going to lie, it's obviously extremely silly, in my opinion, to think about this sort of stuff in any sort of serious way. But I wouldn't ever say to somebody you can't think. That the things that you think about are important. I will though say that what you're forcing on people, because of your beliefs, is a bit crazy. Again, an Indian wedding doesn't force people to do certain things that are just absolutely ridiculous. Dress completely insane. Do mental dances, or if you don't do that, help out with the staff and clearing up stuff, or just pay a load of money to your honeymoon. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Also, you don't have to spend $1,000 on your outfit. Just insane. But don't worry, guys. There's even more. And I haven't even mentioned the whodunit, polygraph, Sherlock Holmes mystery. I would love to go to that. That is incredible. Oh, and amazingly, the next post is all about the results of the polygraph party. Just 1 week later. Polygraph party results. Many of you have been asking how Saturday's polygraph party went. It was fantastic. Attendance was 100%. Yeah, the $99 polygraph machine from Amazon was a bit trashy, but it did the job. I asked you guys simple questions such as, did you leak my dress code to the internet? And do you secretly hate me? Friends, it is with only the deepest joy that I can announce the identification of the snitch. My former friend, Stephanie, was immediately removed from my property. She confessed to leaking my posts and ridiculing me online. My original dress code has gone viral because of her, and the outside world will never freaking understand thanks to Stephanie. Good riddance. Now the Hawaii 29 wedding can go on. Thank you to my best friends Lynn, Jackie, Christy, and Jax. You were very helpful in allowing me to set up my polygraph text and eliminate the snitch, Stephanie. Dress code updates. Please buy your soda hats ASAP. We will be hosting another event in a few weeks in which we will be modifying them. Now, if you would prefer a helicopter hat, by all means, go buy one. Time is of the essence. What the heck is a helicopter hat? Oh my goodness, surely it doesn't mean this. Not the one that, like the multicolored one that kids wear with a propeller on the top that is on screen right now. Surely not. What is this dress code? Ladies, let me be clear. Your secondary outfit must total at least 1K. We are 24K themed after all. Oh my goodness, I forgot you have to buy the secondary outfit as well. What is this? Please submit photos of your synchronized dancing outfits in no later than 1 month. I'll be telling each and every one of you what is wrong and how to improve it. And all I can say is shout out Stephanie. I would love to find Stephanie and just interview her and get her opinion on all of this, but wow. I mean, just straight up going to this polygraph party and saying, yes, it was me, because this is all a massive disgrace and you are a joke. Now, amazingly, this isn't actually where this ends, as one of the guests responded to the Facebook post. Now, this is in pretty poor quality, but I want to include the screenshot so you guys know it's real, but I'll stay on screen. Don't you worry. I already declined when I heard about the dress code, somebody said. Don't think I'll ever go to another function again, knowing I'd have to pay for the ugliest freaking clothes ever or clean up as a guest. Will only go to Hawaii to see my son, as he doesn't tell me to wear heels on the beach. Also, you can't get a real polygraph on Amazon. Anyone who believes that is stupid. Very, very good point. I mean, $99 for a real, legitimate polygraph on Amazon. Seems legit. Professional spiritual healer, my butt. Telling people to spend an ungodly amount of money on tacky fabrics and color choices is no way to make anyone feel better. It's just for you to laugh at years down the line of how you conned your friends into looking like idiots dancing like dolphins on the sand in heels. Did I mention heels on the beach? The sandy freaking beach. So I can guarantee it wasn't me who snitched, but dang, I wish it was, so you wouldn't reach out to me for someone's shoulder to cry on. Maybe my RSVP won't give you the hint, but the pile of horse poop I ordered to be delivered to you will. Oh my gosh. And someone else has commented down below with their own outfit example, putting something together to see how it looks, and it looks absolutely horrible. Jesus didn't die on the cross for us to look like $1,000 hot garbage. Again, I think that's kind of moderate, to be fair, compared to what we saw earlier. But it just does look so bad. The color clash is just a disgrace. So there we go. One of the most ridiculous posts I've ever read ever. Simple as that. It might even be the most ridiculous. Get your comments in down below. What were your thoughts on that? Don't worry. There's another story to come here. Another crazy relationship drama story to get into. But I need to have a little breather. That was absolutely insane. Speaking of insane things, how about this for a title? My husband-to-be wants everyone to know I'm not pure. It's exactly what the title says. I've been with my fiance for 6 years and we've been engaged for the past 8 months. I've been doing most of the wedding planning, but my fiance, let's just call him Ryan, will give his input here and there. So about a month ago, Ryan out of nowhere said he was talking to some of his co-workers and thinks that I shouldn't wear a white dress. This was totally weird to me. Ryan's a very artistic guy, so I figured this was more about how the photos would turn out or something along those lines, but I'm set on wearing white. I told him this and I could see that he was annoyed, but he let it go. 2 weeks ago, I finally picked and paid for my dress, and this caused a huge argument. Ryan again came to me very annoyed. He asked to see the dress I picked, but I said no because I wanted it to be a surprise for our wedding day. He asked me to at least tell him what color it was. And when I said white, he threw a fit. I honestly do not see why this was a big deal. Almost everyone wears white on their wedding day. When I asked him what color he thought I'd be wearing, he told me I should wear red. Again, super weird to me. I asked him why I'd wear red to our wedding, and he told me that brides only wear white when they are pure. For some background, Ryan and I started dating when I was 21 and he had just turned 20. He was a virgin when we met, and I only had one other person who was my ex-boyfriend of 4 years throughout high school. This caused a lot of problems. The first year of our relationship, we almost didn't continue dating because of how insecure he felt. After that first year, it was never a problem again until now, I guess. He went to his mum about all of this, thinking she would convince me, but she's on my side. So 2 nights ago, Ryan and his mum and I stood in our living room and argued about my sex life being shown in a dress. His mum stated that he is no longer a virgin either, so maybe he should wear red too, and he burst out crying. Ryan is still stating that me wearing white would be deceiving all of the guests and that it's different for guys. This has all honestly made me question even marrying this man. I don't know if it's just because everything is so fresh, but I'm really disgusted by him. He's not even religious, so I know this is just about him still thinking about me losing my virginity at 18 before I even knew him. I just needed to rant to anyone about how psycho this is. Right, let's get straight to some comments here. Someone has said, look, if he is this insecure after 6 years together, things are not going to improve. Is he going to mention your impurity in his wedding speech? Is he going to try to leverage this in your marriage to get what he wants? Is he going to demand paternity tests for your children? I would seriously consider what you're signing up for. The dude sounds messed up as frick. Yeah, I think insecurity there is the key word. This level is insane. Someone else said, Jesus, just throw the whole man in the bin. For 6 years, has he been planning on getting back at you for not being a virgin at your wedding? I'm petty as anything, and I just stopped having sex with him. When he asked why, I would say since he finds your sexual history so disgusting, he is now part of the history, while you tell him to pack his stuff and go find a virgin at 26 years old. And finally, somebody said, this is not the kind of guy you want to marry. And why is what you do behind closed doors anybody else's business? I couldn't agree with these 3 comments anymore. Right, 16 months later, that is just last week at the time of recording, March the 7th, 2024, we got this update. This is my update 1 year later on the whole situation. I will start by saying I did not get married. Well, that, to be honest, is pretty good to hear. Ryan made that decision quite easy for me. I remember reading a comment that said I had to already have been done with the relationship for me to move on so fast, and that statement was very true. As much as I want to be the bigger person and not slander Ryan, he deserves it. I won't get into all of our issues, but there are some big ones that I would like to address. The absolute deal breaker for me had nothing to do with the red dress, but instead was all of his little lies that built up through our entire relationship. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. The insecurity is clear to see, and it's obvious that there was more going on here than just him wanting you to be in a red dress. Ryan is very smart, I can't take that away from him. We actually met because even though I am a year older than him, he graduated a year before me. We had mutual classes. For someone so smart, he always got caught in dumb lies. As far as I know, he never cheated on me. That was something that I know a lot of people assumed, but even now I don't believe it. There was never any big lie that caused massive drama, but rather a mountain of little white lies that always made me question why. He would lie to people about having allergies, he'd lie about stopping for food before coming home, he would lie about losing weight. He is a healthy weight with a very normal build. He would just lie about so many things that did not matter. My issue with this is I had absolutely no trust in the man over literally anything. I never held him back from doing things, and he never asked permission to do things. So him going out of his way to lie about meaningless things really made me start to resent him. I do not think he ever talked to his co-workers about the dress. I think that was another lie. After telling him I did not want to be together anymore, I asked him about everything that happened surrounding the wedding. I got no real answers out of him, and till this day I have no real closure. My best assumption is that he got sucked into misogynist forums surrounding purity and made up a story to bring it up to me. Our breakup was pretty nasty since he talked about me a lot online. Oh my gosh, that is the worst. For the most part, I had support. No one ever reached out to me or threatened me, but it's still annoying having my feed filled with rumors that I cheated and broke up our engagement over nothing. There was a lot of name calling as well. Apparently, I'm ran through, I'm fat, I let myself go, I look miserable without him. Eventually, he stopped on his own, as I never acknowledged any of it. Even with the online harassment, he never really fought to save our engagement. I was actually hurt by how he seemed equally as ready to part ways. We have no contact with each other at all, but I do know that last month he actually got engaged again. All I know about the girl is that she is 23, a hardcore Catholic, and actually looks very sweet. For her sake, I hope they work out. I do not still talk to Ryan's mum, sorry to disappoint. She was very kind to me through everything, but for me to continue talking to her would be a bit weird. I still got a happy birthday text and a Merry Christmas one. I did have a date 2 weeks after I called off my engagement. Wow, that is a quick turnaround. Now that didn't go anywhere and it was never meant to. For me, the date was to see just if I felt any guilt for moving on, and I had none. I had a huge career shift 2 months ago and I'm now living in Philadelphia, far away from all the drama. I'm happy with where I'm at and he seems happy with his life. I don't think I'll ever have to interact with him again. Okay, that is going to do it for the post, but someone's left an interesting comment down below saying, I read the original and all I could think was that the whole white wedding gown thing had not a bit to do with purity and actually everything to do with status. Queen Victoria got married in a white gown, so all the society ladies who could possibly afford something as truly frivolous as a fancy white dress that would be worn just once followed suit. Hence the white bridal gown was born. Prior to Victoria, most women got married in whatever their very nicest gown was, and colour didn't figure in a whole lot. Anyway, glad you dodged that nuclear warhead. Have a good life now. Someone else said that Ryan is emotionally unwell, and I'm sad for his new fiancée. I'm sorry this happened to you. You deserve better. And finally, another Redditor commented, sounds like you dodged a bullet. You're better off without him in your life. All the best in your new job. I mean, look guys, at this point I feel like I could go through this post, analyze a few certain things, try and work out exactly why Ryan was saying certain things that he said at certain times. But in reality, I think it is as simple as what someone just said there at the end. He is just emotionally unwell. And I agree. I feel bad for the new fiance that she's going to have to spend at least some part of her life in a relationship with this man. It sounds to me though like OP is doing well, which is great. But yeah, overall, crazy story. The habitual liar didn't want his wife to wear white at her wedding, just in case it would deceive the guests. Well, no, he also wasn't a virgin. So, I mean, who's he really deceiving? What an absolute joke of a man. Bridezilla ruins her own wedding, then demands that her bridal party pay for it. This was originally posted on January the 16th, 2024. Starting the year strong, I swear. So, my friend Dana, who is a 29-year-old woman, was supposed to be getting married this past Sunday, the 14th of January. The wedding got cancelled and things have gotten very crazy. She was getting married to Josh, who was 32. She's still in college with me and asked a few friends from college, myself included, to be her bridal party. Now, from the start, this wedding has been a disaster. I'm going to just point out a few of the crazy things that we've dealt with. 1, she refused to invite my best friend, who she is supposedly good friends with, because she thinks we're lesbian lovers. We're not. 2, she had us go to the dress fitting and then demanded that each of us pay $2,000 for our dresses. Apparently she had a specific style that she wanted. I can afford it, but I'm not buying a $2,000 dress for one event. Some of the girls in the bridal party don't have that flexibility with money. 3, apparently Josh couldn't invite any single females that were not blood relatives of him. So if he had any female friends, they were axed. 4, one of the girls in the bridal party doesn't drink because of her religion. Dana accused her of being pregnant in front of her parents and almost got her kicked out of her house. She wasn't pregnant and she dropped from the bridal party. She was a class act though and never talked badly about Dana, just said she couldn't make it. We found out about that pretty much on the day of the wedding. And 5, she tried to make us cancel our holidays with our families to instead go with her to a destination bachelorette party. I worked full time even during holidays, so I told her that was not happening. More of the bridesmaids said similar things and she dropped it. That is just 5 examples of the countless drama this wedding had before the day itself. Now the meat of the story comes on the wedding day. The day started horribly. Dana was having a meltdown because apparently the flower girl had to cancel because she has chickenpox. She was threatening to sue the mother unless she brought this sick 3-year-old to the wedding. Josh apparently was able to calm her down from this starter outburst, and we began preparations. The whole day, she had constant outbursts. She made people cry, like wedding staff and bridesmaids. The maid of honor deserves a medal for the amount of diplomacy and BS control that she had to do. I, for the most part, took the easy route. The wedding is starting in 30 minutes, so we figure she'd be fine alone for that little amount of time. I spent those 30 minutes just sitting in the chapel with my phone. It had to be about 5 minutes before the start of the wedding when the maid of honor came over to tell me the wedding was cancelled. I asked her what happened. She told me that Dana was having a quickie with Josh's uncle in the room and Josh caught them. Oh my god. I just stared at the maid of honor with my mouth pretty much about to reach the floor. She told me to run and that she was trying to get as many people out before things exploded. So I quickly got my purse, gathered the 2 bridesmaids that were carpooling with me, and we left like the devil was after us. I checked with the other bridesmaids and they'd all escaped. That night, I called the maid of honor to check what happened, and the tea was bad. Apparently and rightfully, Josh called off the wedding. Called her a few names, told off his uncle, and has since left with his mates to, I hope, have the biggest single man party ever. I feel so bad for him. He's an absolute gem of a man. He apparently also told Dana and her parents that she will be paying the cancellation fees. According to the maid of honor, Dana's father told her in front of everyone that she was paying for it on her own for being a slut. Now I thought that was the end of it. I made the choice to separate myself from this mess until I got a call from Dana, not even an hour ago, demanding $5,000 to help pay her cancellation fees. According to her, it was our duty as the bridal party to pay her cancellation fees. I obviously told her no and that she might as well lose my number. I'm never speaking to this woman again. This has been pretty much the reaction of all bridesmaids and the maid of honor. By the way, the maid of honor is Josh's older sister. Okay, and there we go. That is the end of the post. Let's just jump straight into some relevant comments. Some tea. I mean, the sad part, OP continues, is that she had her makeup and hair done and we left dressed and ready. So yeah, she was wearing her wedding dress for this. Someone else said below that OP should have stayed to get more info. But OP said, as much as I like tea, I know when it's best to retreat and get it from a witness. I'm pretty sure if I stayed, Dana would have dragged us into something. Someone else asked, was Dana always like this? Oh, we're sure there's no moral compass in there. She used to be incredibly nice way back before her engagement, and since becoming the first bride of the group, she's become insufferable. We were all on our last thread. Another Redditor asked, how long was she having a thing with the uncle? How long with the uncle? No idea. I found out during the wedding, and I don't have any info on it since. Poor Josh, someone says. I hope he finds someone. Not gonna lie, pretty sure half the bridal party would offer themselves as tribute. He's a good looking guy. I don't know him that well, but we've had drinks a few times. He will find a girl when he's ready in a snap. Well, what happened to the $2,000 dresses and what were they, someone asked. Yeah, to be fair, I mean, $2,000 on a bridesmaid dress? That seems ridiculous. Nobody bought them, don't worry. Some of the girls can't afford it. She had a full meltdown in the chat until the maid of honor got involved and offered to buy cheaper dresses for the bridesmaids. They were Ellie Saab, whatever brand that is. The dress was beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't buy it for a wedding. Right, I've just gone on the Ellie Saab website. He's some designer from Lebanon, and the dresses are like $5,000. I mean, yeah, they look great, but there's some here for $7,000. Not quite sure that's worth the price. Oh, no, here's one for $14,850. To be fair, that one's quite nice. Get that one, me. Someone else asked, how did that one bridesmaid's parents think she was pregnant when she doesn't drink for her culture? Well, my understanding, bear in mind, I'm sharing as I was told, is that Dana and this bridesmaid are really old friends. So the bridesmaid's parents have a level of trust with Dana. Apparently, the bridesmaid had been feeling sick a few days prior, and I remember that she had to cancel something. Then we went to prepare the bachelorette party, and there was going to be an extra charge for mocktails, which she offered to pay. Dana found out somehow and spoke first to her parents, telling them that the bridesmaid was acting like she was pregnant, not mentioning that the whole issue was because the bride refused to make an exception for the bachelorette party about drinking. Now, it's obviously still kind of bad on the parents, but I can see where they're coming from. The bridesmaid isn't pregnant for the record, she actually just was sick. Also, in case someone asks, the bridesmaid no longer lives with her parents and hasn't for a few years. The bridesmaid was then contacted by her parents and told to never come back to their home for being a tramp that got pregnant outside marriage. I know she lives in dorms, so I imagine she goes back during vacations, is still the family home, and she keeps a room there. Oh my goodness me. Now, someone else finally commented that this must be fake because there are no cancellation fees on the day of the wedding. OP replied, oh, pardon me for not knowing how wedding planning works when I've never worked or cared for planning a wedding. Because, you know, it must be common knowledge for everyone everywhere. I translated what I was told. What I was told by the bride is, necesito el dinero para pagar la boda. El hijo de puta canceló y me están cobrando. Not sure if I can say that word. It's a swear word. But yeah, that translates as, I need money to pay for the wedding. That's SOB, cancelled, and can I say SOB? I can say SOB, surely. Anyway, that SOB cancelled and they're making me pay. Okay, so there we go. Without a doubt, one of the most unbelievable first posts I've ever read. I just did not expect that at all. Absolutely crazy scenes. Now, there is an update to come, which was posted. When was it posted? Just a little bit later on. Not too far after the first post, 6 days later. But I've got to say, just off the bat, wow. How do you even comment on a story like that? Other than saying, this woman is mental. What is she doing? She's clearly unhinged. And she is doing things with her soon-to-be husband's uncle on the day of her wedding. Not just on the day, but like 5 minutes before they're literally about to get married. Crazy. Anyway, I don't even know what more I can say about that. Let's just get into the update. As I said, posted about a week later on January 22nd. Hey guys, I know a lot of people want to know what happened. After talking to Josh yesterday, he asked me to only say that he's okay, figuring things out and moving on. We're going to stay friends with him and his sister. Dana was told that no one in the group wants to interact with her, and since then it's been mostly radio silence. I can't share more about Josh's future plans as he asked me not to. He did have a good laugh at some of the comments that I showed him, and he appreciates the support though. The one detail I did get corrected on for those curious was about his uncle. He's the younger brother of Josh's mother, and he's 55 years old. Now I thought he was married into the family, but I got that detail wrong. Oh my gosh, he's just fully blood related to Josh. I also found out the most disgusting detail is the uncle knew Dana since she was a teenager. Dana and Josh are high school sweethearts, so yeah, I kind of feel gross knowing that. Other than that, I got a major haul of cake, so at least I got something good out of this mess. So the uncle is 55 and Dana's 29, and they've known each other since Dana was a teenager. Just when you thought this story couldn't get any worse, oh it does. There we go. Right, let's round things off with a couple of comments from down below. OP first of all adds a little bit more info. A few things that I've been asked not to share, but I can share, is that Josh is okay and working to get things in order. He came over and seemed down, but we got him to laugh a bit, so there's some good news there. No news, however, on Dana. I actually requested to change some of my classes with her, or drop if I couldn't find alternative schedules. I'm not in any hurry since I'm only a student part-time. Oh my gosh. You're willing to kind of sacrifice a bit of your, uni degree to just get out of a class with this horrible person? I mean, I guess it makes sense. Someone asked, what happened to the uncle and his family? From what I can share, I was asked to keep a lot of details private by Josh himself, but his wife, uncle's wife, is planning a divorce. That is really all he wants me to say. And then finally, someone commented down below about what exactly the bride said in her text, the one that was in Spanish. The Spanish version of the message makes absolute sense. She doesn't say that she had to pay a cancellation fee. She says that the son of a gun cancelled the wedding and now the bride has to pay for it. She probably has to pay for the resulting bill since the groom cancelled and he wouldn't pay. Yeah, makes complete sense to me. So there we go. That concludes, without a doubt, one of the most crazy Bridezilla stories I've ever read. Just hands down. However, aren't you lucky? Because I've got another one for you. Let's go. Bridezilla tries to scam bridesmaids. Now, this was originally posted in 2019 on the 24th of June. Several years ago, a friend of mine asked me to be a bridesmaid at her wedding. There were 6 of us, plus the maid of honor, so 7 total. The bride had picked out her dress already, one for the maid of honor and one for the bridesmaids. The dress itself was lovely, but a bit expensive at $400 each, since 2 of us were still in college, and the rest had recently graduated. Yeah, that is still very expensive, but it's not quite $2,000 from the last post. Anyway, OP says, I was one of the 2 still in college, so money was super tight. Anyhow, the bride asked the maid of honor to coordinate with all of us for fittings and alterations and such as one of her duties. The maid of honor decided that she would pay for all of the dresses on her credit card because she wanted the air miles, and we would pay her back directly. None of us minded, especially since she was going to let us pay her back in installments if we needed. I definitely needed. I wasn't able to go with everyone to pick up the dresses because finals week, and I planned to go by myself the following weekend. No big deal. The maid of honor said she would pay for mine on the group trip, but to call her if there were any issues with the dress itself and she'd handle it. I get there and the dress fits perfectly. The shop owner scoots off while I'm changing back into my street clothes since she has another client coming in, but confirms that we're all set. As I'm walking out the door, another person working there yells out, "Hey, that will be $200. I was stunned and totally mortified. I apologized and explained how I thought the maid of honor had paid for it the weekend before. The shop owner comes running over to defuse the situation and confirm the dress was paid for already. I turned to walk out and I suddenly realized that she said $200 and not $400. Long story short, the dress was only $200. When I confronted the maid of honor about it, she spilled the beans. Apparently, the bride and maid of honor plotted together to charge us double to help pay for the bride's dress. I let the rest of the bridesmaids know, and 4 of us dropped out of the wedding immediately. Wow. So some more information here. The wedding took place several years ago, almost a full 10 now, and I hadn't spoken to the bride and maid of honor since. The only other people I knew were the 3 other bridesmaids that dropped out with me. The 2 others were cousins of the bride, and they agreed to continue on as a favour to their mum, the bride's aunt, to avoid family drama. More on them in a bit. Now fast forward to now. I got an email from the maid of honor who wanted to apologise again. She wasn't making excuses for her behaviour. On the contrary, she acknowledged her wrongdoing and said she still felt incapable of saying no to the bride, her friend. She was pretty disgusted with herself and relieved when I confronted her. To her credit, she said as much back then. They'd been friends forever, and it took her a really long time to see behind the mask and how toxic the friendship had always been and the part she played in it. For what it's worth, I do believe her. A quick flashback, I hadn't yet paid for the dress when the truth came out, so I just turned it over to the maid of honor. The 3 other bridesmaids got their money back immediately without any hassle. The maid of honor apologized like crazy at the time to all of us, but we just wrote her, the bride, and the whole situation off. None of us ever heard from the bride. No apologies, no nothing. Well, it turns out the bride never reimbursed the maid of honor for anything. Initially, the bride said she'd repay her, but after the wedding, everything changed. She said if the maid of honor hadn't spilled the beans, she wouldn't be out of all the money, and it's the price paid for being a disloyal friend. And the maid of honor wasn't just out the $200 buy 6 bridesmaid dresses. The bride had also convinced the maid of honor to pay for the wedding dress because it would be easier for the bride to pay off the balance at the end. When the maid of honor threatened to take the bride to court, the bride said her cousins, the 2 bridesmaids, would say that the maid of honor came up with the whole scheme and have her arrested for fraud. She found out years later the cousins never agreed to such a thing and would have been willing to go to court and say the exact opposite. They were disgusted by the whole situation too and wanted to drop out, but their mother, the bride's aunt, pushed them to keep up appearances for the family. They even told the maid of honor the replacement bridesmaids paid the bride $200 cash for each dress, none of which made it to the maid of honor. I almost forgot the funny part. The bride told her future husband that the 4 of us dropped out because we were jealous of her. So her whole family, plus the maid of honor, knew the truth, but not the future husband, nor anyone in his family. And there was also much more behind the scenes that the maid of honor was privy to that we didn't see, and wouldn't anyway after we dropped out. Apparently, the bride manipulated her entire family into paying for most of the wedding and the honeymoon. The dresses were supposed to be her one and only responsibility, and likewise, the future husband was responsible for the suits. That is not what she'd told us at the time, and she even bragged that her husband was going to pay for everything. The bride also tried to manipulate her future in-laws into buying her a new car as a wedding present. They didn't, and in revenge, she interrupted the mother and son's dance just moments after it started. She looked at the maid of honor and said, "Watch this," and then waltzed out onto the floor and basically shoved her new mother-in-law out of the way. She also accused the reception wait staff of trying to ruin the photos by getting in the way of the photographer as they were serving the guests. Even after the photographer confirmed they were not in any of the shots, she still insisted they would have to personally reimburse her, even though she never paid for anything in the first place. Oh, and somehow it gets worse. At the brunch the morning after, the maid of honor said the bride gave a short toast to herself and didn't thank anyone and barely acknowledged her new husband. Now, as for the maid of honor, she says that she tried to collect the money she was owed, but eventually accepted it was gone and cut all ties. Even still, the bride would reach out every couple of months to ask if she was done being such a female dog yet. When the maid of honor blocked her number, the bride spread rumors about the maid of honor and her fiance at the time, now husband, saying that he was an illegal, marrying her only for the green card, claiming that they used government assistance to pay for the wedding. Meanwhile, he'd already become an American citizen long before they met and was and is a ridiculously successful software engineer who paid for the entire wedding himself and took not only his immediate family, but hers too, to Hawaii for the honeymoon. The bride was just jealous that the maid of honor had everything she wanted. As for the bride, she's on divorce number 2 already and estranged from her entire family because they got tired of her manipulating and using them too. Okay, and there we go. That is the end of the second Bridezilla story. Now, I don't even know which one's worse. Actually, get in the comments down below. I kind of wish that polls on YouTube were still a thing. I could do a little poll over here. Which one is worse? Bride 1 or Bride 2? But you're going to have to comment because polls are no longer a thing. Get in the comments down below, guys. Which bride is worse? Actually, to be fair, the first one's not even a bride, really. More of a bride to be. But Bride 1 or Bride 2, and why? I want to hear your thoughts. Personally, just looking back at the stories here, I think that I would go for... I don't know, it's tough. It is tough. I think that Bride 1 that's pretty bad. I mean, like shagging your husband-to-be's uncle 10 minutes before you're about to get married. I'm not sure it can get much worse than that. And the second one is more emotional manipulation, which is also terrible. And she's completely, just completely taking advantage of the maid of honor in a disgusting way, which I hate. But There's like financial abuse, and then there's cheating on the person that you're about to be married to 10 minutes before with his blood relative. I think there's levels to this game. Would I be the jerk for cancelling my brother's wedding? This was originally posted on February the 25th, 2024. I am a 31-year-old woman, and I have a 28-year-old brother who is hoping to get married to his fiancée, who's 25. They've been in a relationship for a long time. They have kids and a house together, so she isn't someone who is new to the family. We're all European, but I own a gorgeous house in Colorado. It's in the middle of the mountains, surrounded by forests, has huge windows looking out on my acres surrounding. It truly is stunning and a dream come true. A couple of months ago, my brother came to me and asked me if they could use my house for a destination wedding. While I was hesitant to host a goddamn wedding in the house of my dreams, I can absolutely understand how my dream home is her dream venue. I told him they absolutely could, but they had some rules to follow, despite me not living there. First of all, no more than 25 guests. It truly is in the middle of nowhere, so guests would have to sleep at the house, and I simply do not have room for more. Second, nothing that permanently alters anything in or around the house. Third, no smoking indoors. And fourth, any damage done by them or their guests would have to be paid for. Since I'm quite protective of the house, I offer to decorate and find a caterer, and that would be my gift to them. So I'm providing them with a venue, food, and decorations. I'm currently almost 10k into my gift because it's my brother's wedding and it's what I wanted to do. Wow, that is unbelievably generous. Well, now poop has hit the fan. His fiancée decided she needed at least 45 guests. While I was willing to be flexible by 1 or 2, 20? No. I asked her if she wanted to stack them and she got salty. On top of that, she wants me to pay to fly her family in because I fronted the money to my other brother. He's paying me back because he couldn't afford a ticket. I told her no, and again, I got sassed. On top of that, she wants me to build a pergola, which I actually considered, paint my living room, covering up the beautiful wood, so F no, and also pay for the drinks. I said no, I've done enough. She, though, has now taken it upon herself to tell people that I am going back on my promises, that I left her hanging, that she can't afford the super expensive wedding I made her plan, and even went as far as to uninvite my grandparents just to spite me. Her words were, "You wanted me to cut back on guests, so I'm picking your family." I'm getting at least 2 messages a day asking me why I'm ruining her day, if I'm jealous, etc. Today, she called me to tell me that if I keep going out of my way to make her miserable, me and my, quote, rescues, 2 of my children are adopted, would not be invited either. While I find it absurd that she thinks she can uninvite me from my own house, the fact that she referred to my kids as rescues has me absolutely fuming. I'm considering cancelling the whole thing, but I would then be royally screwing over my brother in the process, who's done nothing wrong. So, is her trash show overshadowing my need to protect my brother from a giant financial hole? I don't know. Okay, now before we get into my thoughts on this, first of all, there's a little bit more context needed. OP answered a few comments down below. A lot of people are asking about the second house in general, where it is, whose exactly it is, how it works, etc. OP said this: I purchased this house after it had been on the market for close to 2 years. It was in complete disrepair, and I spent a little over a year of my life restoring, not renovating it, to its original glorious state. I've spent a lot of money, love, and time on this house, and had anyone wanted it, it would have been purchased somewhere in the 2 years it was on the market. By that logic, should I no longer buy that last block of cheese at the supermarket because someone else might want it? Not park anywhere because someone else could want to park there? I might move into this home, I might not. Now, OP actually added before that they do not live in Colorado. They all live in their home country in Europe. But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a second house, I don't think. I mean, who am I kidding? If I had enough money to have a second house, I'd definitely have one. OP continues saying, also, happy to see you're getting your cardio in by jumping to conclusions. The house is currently being used by a friend who needs to get back on his feet and has been for the past 8 months. Now, I think this sort of line and tone from OP is coming as a response to a few commenters saying, why are you being so kind of, I guess, selfish in a way? No one's living in that house. No one's using that house. Yes, you own it, of course, but you're not in it at that time. Why not just let your brother and his fiance have it and don't be difficult about it? Now, that's not what I would personally think here at all. In fact, I think the complete opposite. But OP ends by saying, I work hard for what I have, and if I want to spend it having the home of my dreams, just in case I someday want to live there, that is my choice. And I completely agree on that. Now, someone else asked for some more information. Does your brother know that she is behaving in this way? Have you spoken to him about this behavior? OP says, I have. Almost everything goes through text message, so I screen grab the outrageous nonsense. He claims the pressure of planning a wedding has gotten to her and that I should try and be patient. Now, somebody else asked about the logistics of fitting 25 people into this house. I was actually thinking about this myself. It must be a pretty nice big house if you can fit 25 people in. They asked exactly that. How big is it so that you can accommodate up to 25 guests overnight? OP says it's decently big. The sleeping arrangements wouldn't be luxurious though. Think a combination of sleeping on couches, blow-up mattresses, and sharing beds. Not ideal, but it would have worked for 1 or 2 nights. I guess the conclusion here is that yes, 25 is doable at a push, but any more is really not feasible. And 20 more, taking it to 45 guests in total, is just never ever gonna happen. Okay, so my initial thoughts off the bat after reading the original post and getting the context of these comments here is that if it's your house, you can do whatever you want with it. Simple as that. I don't think there's any sort of requirement or need for you to share it with somebody just because they are a relation to you or they're in a time of need or whatever. Like, yes, it's a nice thing to do. And let's be honest, OP has been so selfless here. I mean, not just the saying, yes, you can use the house, obviously for the venue, but all the other stuff as well. You know, 10,000, whatever currency it is, $10,000 or euros has been put into the gift of, you know, redecorating, getting the food in, etc. And then you're housing everyone as well afterwards. It's not just the venue. You're saying, okay, 25 people can stay there. Like, you're putting in a lot of work here just to be nice to your brother. And it's just getting thrown back in your face by his, I'm sorry to say it, but terribly entitled fiance. Like, why is she trying to extract as much from you as she can? Can she not just be really, like, grateful that you're doing so much anyway? Why does it have to be another 20 guests? Why is it, oh, now are you jealous? Are you trying to ruin my life? Well, no, ruining your life, or I guess like, not helping you, would be saying, okay, where's my invite to the wedding? Where's the venue? You know, where's all the guests? Yeah, I'll get you a gift or whatever, but I mean, you're going to have to pay a lot of money for all this. I mean, like tens of thousands of dollars. But no, you're getting all that for free because you have a very kind future sister-in-law, but you just can't see that? I don't know. Anyway, let's get into the first update for this one. This was posted just 5 days after the original. Then there's actually another update that was posted just a few days ago at the time of recording. Okay, then here we go. First of all, I do want to address one thing. To those claiming that I'm a jerk because I'm contributing to the housing crisis by owning a house I don't live in, I'm not. This is a house so deep in the mountains that I need to drive 50 minutes to go do groceries. The internet is so bad that I'm waiting for even Starlink to start covering the area. And when it snows, you sure as heck aren't going anywhere. This is not a house built for living in full time. On top of that, it was on the market for close to 2 years and was in complete disrepair. I did not steal some family's home. Nobody wanted it. The fact that this is a dream home is because I spent a year of my life restoring the whole thing myself. Okay, I understand now. So I guess that's what people were annoyed with, the fact that somebody owns 2 homes. I am not even going to bother trying to act as if I care about that sort of thing. I feel like if you're able to buy a second home, buy a second home, especially if it's in a different country. It's not as if you're taking away homes from people that are looking or don't have one. I don't think anyway. Maybe a tiny bit, but come on, let's be realistic. But I will say, guys, if you disagree with me or you agree with me, get in the comments down below. Let me know why I'm right or wrong. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, now onto the update, says OP. I heard they were visiting my parents and I drove down as well. Mostly because I wanted people present to witness the conversation. I told her and my brother that since my home did not suit her needs and it was stressing her out to the point that she was calling my children names, I no longer felt like I was giving them the appropriate gift by supplying a venue, caterer, and decorations. I just realized, guys, that is one thing I failed to even talk about, but it's probably the most horrible thing that I've read in a long time. Calling your adopted children rescues is crazy. I mean, it's obvious that this woman, this fiance, is a terrible person anyway, but That is just insane. Anyway, OP continues. I said that I felt like in my efforts to protect my home, I was limiting their options too much, standing in the way of their dream wedding, and as a result would no longer be hosting. My brother actually seemed relieved, admitted to not quite wanting a destination wedding, and that things got a little out of hand during the planning phase. Thanked me for my willingness to help and offered to pay me back for the deposits that I'm losing, which I appreciated but declined. His SO, however, accused me of being petty and jealous because I'm single and no one wants me, and going out of my way to cause her stress and ruin her day. She then pointed at my 2 youngest children and said, "You're doing more for strangers than you are your own family." Oh, wow. The kids are luckily young enough so they didn't catch on to this, but my older 2 did and were absolutely shocked. So were my parents. I told her she had all of 3 seconds to get out of my line of sight before I'd be bringing hellfire down on her, while instructing my children to leave the room. My father stepped in, said it would indeed be better for her to leave, and told my brother that he was sorry but that this is unacceptable. My brother agreed, took his family home, and has since called me to apologise and to say that the wedding planning has been put on hold until she comes to her senses. So thanks for the input and help all. I'm happy it didn't end up all too dramatic. Now that was it for the first update, but as I said, there was a second to come. This was posted 2 months later, just a week ago at the time of recording on April the 28th, 2024. But before we get to that, I know I have to talk about it. What the heck? If you are OP's brother and your fiance is saying you look after strangers ahead of your own family, talking about your adopted children, how are you still with that person? I'm sorry, it just makes no sense. Anyway, let's get into the update. OP says, the wedding was yesterday, and to my surprise, myself and all of my children were invited. I at first declined, but was eventually mellowed down by the fact that it was my little brother's big day. I went last minute shopping so we'd be able to adhere to the dress code, and I even texted the bride photos of the outfits saying, "Is this okay?" She was very civil, very polite, and even seemed grateful that we'd show up after all. The wedding starts. My brother, his wife, and their children all look extremely happy and beautiful. It was a beautiful wedding, and I began to think that all the dust had settled. Until this morning, I woke up to a text message from Amy, my now sister-in-law, explaining that she and my brother were both very disappointed that I hadn't gifted them the amount in cash that I would have spent on decor and food had the wedding been in my house. I'm yet to respond. Frankly, I'm hurt because I thought they were reaching out to repair our relationship, but instead, they just wanted me to gift roughly 10 times of what I gifted them, despite me already losing out because of the deposits. So, I'm considering going no contact and completely walking away. I would miss my nibblings immensely, and I dread the idea of dividing my family like that, as our parents and extended family would be forced to navigate around the whole issue. But at this point, I'm just so hurt and angry. So to those of you whose relationship survived the whole Bridezilla saga, what did you do? How did you do it? Was it worth it? Now, guys, if you're watching this or listening to this and you are one of those people, get your comments in down below. How? Now, OP has actually added one more little update just a day later, saying this. As many of you suggested, I contacted my brother, and in the midst of small talk, I asked him if he was pleased with my gift. He expressed being surprised with the fact they still got one, given the fact that I'd already lost money in the deposits. Yes, I mean, that is so obvious, by the way. Clearly, the brother didn't say, "Oh yeah, I'm disappointed with only getting 1k. It was obvious that his new wife had said, "Oh yeah, it's actually me and him as well that were really disappointed with only getting 1k, when in reality, it was obviously just her. When I tell you my blood boils, continued OP. Now, I have never in my life done something petty, recovering people pleaser here. But in that moment, I decided to return the jerkery in kind. Family dynamics be danged. First of all, I told my brother. He apologized and told me to ignore it. I told him I wouldn't be doing that. He said, "Well, I can't stop you," and said he'd never take away my spot in my nibbling's life. So I screen grabbed everything and I took it to social media. I tagged her, my brother, our parents, her siblings and parents, and went on this incredibly passive-aggressive, childish rant on how I wanted to avoid misunderstandings within my social and family circle, and how sorry I was that my efforts weren't to the bride's liking. Now that is such a good way of doing it, by the way. Not just going full throttle at her, saying, "Look everyone, this person's horrible and this is why," saying, "Oh, I've tried my best, but I just couldn't do enough." in reality showing people how horrible she is, but not forcing that down their throats. Anyway, OP says, my post went up about 3 hours ago, and the only message I've opened so far is my brother's, stating, roughly translated, woke up and chose violence, huh? He doesn't seem to care. I'll be going no contact with my sister-in-law for the foreseeable future, and I'm now 100% done with this nonsense. Thank you for the advice all. Yeah, I think that's a logical conclusion to this one, really. I think that is what you have to do. Again, I'm not entirely sure why your brother is still with this woman. The fact that they do have kids gives me more of a reason as to why that might be the case. But still, surely like you look at your partner's actions throughout all of this and think, do I really want to be with them? Like, it is a choice being with somebody, you know, in a relationship. I know you've got kids, but come on. Like, how can you be with someone like that? I don't personally know, but maybe your brother's just so used to it now, or there's other stuff and she actually is all right at certain times. She just can be horrible like this, and your brother's like, you know what? When she's being like this, I don't care. When she's nice, yeah, that's why I'm with her. Who knows? I think we need some more context there, but just from what we've seen, based on OP's post here, I don't get it. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you reckon that OP is only telling us the bad side or the bad parts about her new sister-in-law? Or do you think she is just a terrible person? I mean, again, I go back to it. The rescues comment is mental. Maid of honor kicked out of wedding on wedding day. Things escalate. This was originally posted on May the 31st, 2024. This was originally posted on May the 31st, 2024 with the title, I tried to warn the bride that her bridesmaid dresses wouldn't work for me, but she insisted, and now she's annoyed because I look like the bride. I'm supposed to be the maid of honor tonight for a wedding. My husband is the best man, and we've been friends with this couple for a long time. The problem is that now I'm being kicked out for being black, and my husband wants to step down as best man because of it. It's causing a whole thing. To clarify, because this is important, the bride is not racist in any way. She's just kind of dumb for refusing to listen. My skin color is the issue, but not because she has a problem with it overall, just because she didn't realize that my skin would make a dress look different on me than on others. She's had this vision for her wedding forever, apparently. Her bridesmaid dresses are nearly identical to her wedding dress in style, except a different color. And on the bridesmaids' dresses, the detailing stops at the waist and they're not laced up in the back. My dress as maid of honor is an exact carbon copy of hers, just in the other color. Now here is where it gets to be a mess. She picked this color the company calls morning gray for her bridesmaid dresses. Morning gray, for anyone wondering, is like a soft pastel gray that's pretty much a shade of white. On the other bridesmaids, the dress absolutely looks gray. A very soft, very ethereal gray, but a gray nonetheless. All the other bridesmaids are also white. I'm not. I'm not only black, but as I've been to the beach for another wedding this year, I'm darker than I normally am. Against my skin, the dress undeniably looks white. Like the only way you can tell mine is actually grey is if I'm standing directly next to the bride and the dresses are side by side. Then you can see that mine is slightly grey and hers isn't. Now the bride ordered all of the dresses and picked the colour herself. I tried to tell her she should order mine in a darker shade of grey because I've been down this road before where I've been accused of wearing white at a wedding because the dress I wore looked white in the sunlight even though it wasn't. She insisted that she had her cousin try it on and the colour was perfect and you could easily tell it was grey. I tried to explain to her that her cousin is the colour of printer paper and that it would look different on me, but she was unwilling to have her, quote, vision modified. Now she's annoyed at me because it's clear when it's hanging with the other dresses that mine is the same colour as the other bridesmaids. She's decided the only option is to kick me out of the wedding so I don't upstage her. However, she wants me to give my dress to one of the other bridesmaids, which I said was fine as soon as she reimbursed me the money for it. It was $350 compared to the rest of the bridesmaids who paid about $125. But then one of the bridesmaids promptly pointed out that none of them could even wear my dress. I'm not huge, but I am incredibly top heavy. I wear a 34H bra, which is part of why my dress was so much more expensive than the other bridesmaids. The other part being the extra detailing. So none of the other bridesmaids would be able to keep my dress up even if the lacing was pulled as tight as it would go. So now she's decided that I've ruined her perfect wedding. She screamed at me and told me that not only am I not in the wedding, but she doesn't even want me to attend as a guest, which annoyed my husband, A, because she was warned. I even sent her photos of a dress that I wore that was almost the same colour to a different wedding, and B, because he doesn't want to attend a wedding we travelled for without me, and he thinks it's BS since she insisted on that dress colour. Okay, so there we go. That is the original post. And before we get into the thoughts of some other people on Reddit who have commented down below, I just have to say a few things myself. First of all, are you 100% sure that the bride isn't actually racist? Now, I know you've said she isn't, but just based on a few things that I'm reading there in the first post, and I'm not talking about her saying, the bride saying that you need to leave because the dress doesn't look the right color on you. Not even that, just the tone and the way she was going about what eventually happened, as in not even inviting you to the wedding after all, even though you're meant to be one of her closest friends and were going to be the maid of honor. Like you could still just come as a guest, right? I don't know. Very, very strange behavior. Also, the fact that she's asking to replace you with someone that is white or lighter anyway. I mean, you can say it's not racist because it's about the color of the dress. It sounds pretty racist to me. I don't know. There are ways to go about it which would make her seem less racist, is all I'm going to say. I mean, overall, she just does seem like a terrible person, to be honest. But yeah, let's see what the comments are saying. It's worth saying as well that you did absolutely nothing wrong here, OP, at all, and the way you've been treated is horrible. Okay, so somebody said, you're not the jerk, you did nothing wrong, and I'd fully support your husband stepping out as well. Neither of you are ruining the wedding. The bride did that all on her own. What an absolute... Ugh, never mind. Also, you say she isn't racist, but this comes across as someone who might just be a little. Like someone who screams, I don't see colour, or who says, I can't be racist because I have friends of colour. Well, lady, your behaviour tells otherwise. And you, OP, you deserve so much better than this. Somebody else said, OP went out of her way to say her, maybe former, friend isn't racist, but this sounds pretty racist to me. She went from maid of honor to being screamed at and uninvited to the wedding and is being replaced by someone with lighter skin who doesn't compromise the bride's aesthetic. Yeah, I mean, that is exactly what I was saying. I don't know. It's weird though, because you wouldn't just suddenly become racist, and she was invited with a pretty major role at the beginning of this, you know, maid of honor. It's one of the most important roles there is at a wedding. So I'm not sure. Maybe she is just really, really strange and was genuinely horrified at how the color looked on you, and that's nothing to do with your skin, even though it is to do with your skin, but it's just purely an aesthetic thing. I don't know. Is that racist anyway? I'm not sure. And then somebody else commented, describing the cousin's skin tone as a print paper is freaking funny. Thank you for that. Why can't she have you in a different colored dress? Some brides do that for their maid of honors. Just dye it or something. That's an extreme overreaction on her part, especially since you warned her. That is a great point. You could just get another dress and still be the maid of honor. She doesn't have to replace you. Maybe she is racist after all. The comment continues, you're clearly close since you're her maid of honor, so you'd think she'd trust what you look like in a certain color, but Bridezilla clearly lost their marbles. I'm thinking you dodged a bullet on this one, and hubby will too once he dips, but there has to be other solutions than straight kicking you out. If you really want to stay in it, ask her if you can find someone to dye the dress if she's amendable to you having a different shade. Now that whole thing is a very good point. Yeah, there are solutions here which do not involve just flat kicking you out of the entire wedding. Okay, let's move on to the update. This was posted on the same day for everyone who is asking what happened. So, after I posted, things got ugly and the groom called everything off. Actually, this is a very good point. So, when actually is the wedding? That's what we haven't actually been told yet, have we? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, maybe this is the day before or the week before, but the wedding seems imminent. I initially offered to dye the dress since I was the only person not getting my hair done. My hair's been damaged more than once by stylists who don't know how to handle the texture, so I'm very limited in who I will let do it, and instead I usually do it myself. The groom thought this was a great idea and even offered to pay for the stuff needed to dye it and let me use his parents' place to do it. While he went to go talk to his parents though, my now ex-friend nixed that, because then I would stand out even more. So I asked what she meant by stand out even more, and a whole lot of truth came out. Apparently, she initially hadn't wanted me in the wedding at all, but her ex-fiancé is one of my oldest and best friends, and my husband was, note the past tense, one of hers. That's why we introduced them to each other in the first place, because we thought they would hit it off, and they did. Anyway, because my husband was the closest thing she has to a sibling, she really wanted him to be the man of honor at their wedding. And initially, the now ex-groom said that was fine, and he would just have me as a best woman so things would look balanced, and 2 men didn't have to walk down the aisle or whatever. She really didn't like that, so they decided to switch it up. No big deal. Except apparently it was because I'm the only person of colour in the whole wedding party, and one of very few who will be at the wedding at all, and I'm going to stand out in every single picture. I asked her, what about the groom's parents? The groom is white, but he's adopted by a black couple and is quite close to both his biological and adoptive parents. But if you ask who his parents are, he always says the people who raised him. Her theory was that his biological parents would be in the pictures and not his adoptive parents. Oh my goodness, I'm only laughing because it's so insane. Well, when the groom came back and heard this, he flipped out, and then she said the dumbest thing she could have. Apparently, quote, "It's not his fault, he had no control over who adopted him, and the pictures should just be," another quote, "real family." Well, at that point, the groom had heard enough and told her that they were his real family, and he couldn't believe she'd say that. She was not the person he thought she was, and he was not marrying her. She gets annoyed and tells him he's being ridiculous, but his parents can be in some of the photos, and they'll take some without. He tells her again that he is in no way, shape, manner or form marrying her after what he heard, and in fact he wants nothing to do with her. She gets upset and says, well, she's at least going to go have fun at the reception. He reminds her that he and his parents paid for everything, including the reception, and she is not welcome, and he will be informing the security of that fact. The bride runs off and tells her parents what he's saying and doing, so they come out, all guns blazing, and confront him, but apparently she didn't give them all the facts because when he laid it out for them, they were appalled. Her father literally tore her a new one, talking about how she was not raised that way, and he couldn't believe this was the person she'd become. They apologized to the groom, offered to pay for half of the wedding, and they left with their daughter. So, we spent the afternoon with the groom, several of the bridesmaids, and all of the groomsmen, who were all equally shocked by her behaviour. I'd say we were consoling the groom, but we weren't. He was too busy ranting about dodging a bullet. Last night, we went to the reception, partied until like 3 AM and had a great time. As for the dress, I have an event later this summer and I'm going to dye the dress and wear it for that. Alright, let's just get straight into the comments. Wow, I cannot believe what I've read. Someone said, "I'm sorry that you all had to find out that she was a horrible person, but thank goodness it was discovered before the wedding and before kids." I agree. There is a silver lining in this, and I feel like the groom-to-be explained and accepted it very, very quickly. He's actually in many ways fortunate that he found out now. Now, obviously, it's not ideal to find out that the person you're about to marry is a disgusting racist, but at least you find out before you tie the knot. Fair play to him for having that mentality so soon after that event. But anyway, let's carry on with this comment. The ex must be breathing a sigh of relief, but how is your husband doing? You stated that your husband is the closest thing she has to a sibling, so he must be a combination of furious and heartbroken. I'm so glad though that you all had a blast at the reception, and I hope that everyone was also petty enough to share the heck out of the pictures on their socials with a caption, something like, "Living their best life, now that the trash has been taken out. Best of luck to your friend." Opie replied to this 2 days after the wedding. "My husband will probably be sad later because they had been friends for so long, but right now he's just disgusted that he was friends with someone who thought like that. Like, she was at our wedding." I think furious and heartbroken is absolutely accurate. So there we go. I guess I was right with what I first said after the original post. She was racist after all. Isn't that a great thing? Wow, predicting a racist. Just not sure that's good, but yeah, it was, to be honest, now that I think about it in hindsight, pretty obvious based on some of the things that we saw in the original post that this woman was almost undeniably racist. You guys just hadn't explicitly found out yet. Just reading some of the comments down below now as well on the post that's all been put together with the updates. Someone quoting the original post, "To clarify, because it's important, the bride is not racist in any way." Then saying, "She's going to be a big fat racist, isn't she?" Yes, you are correct. I mean, can we just talk for a second about what she said about the groom's bio parents being allowed in photos, but his adoptive parents not being? Gosh, just actually insane. It is weird to me that you get this far in a relationship, you know, be engaged, be ready to go at the altar almost, before realizing that the person you're about to marry is so racist. I mean, surely you've had conversations and you've had like, meetups with the groom's adoptive parents before. And unless she's just been able to fake it really well, I don't know. If you're the groom, are you not seeing something in your fiance, in how she is with your adoptive parents, her relationship with them, that makes you think, something's not right there? Maybe not. Maybe she just hid it really well, but when it came to her big day, her wedding, she couldn't hide it for any longer, and she didn't want any black people in any of her photos. Am I wrong? Invited to a wedding, but there's a catch. This was originally posted on July the 11th, 2024. I was so happy to see a wedding invitation in my mailbox. I pulled it out and a little note fell out on an index card, but I looked at the invitation first. It was truly beautiful, and I immediately stuck it to my fridge like the work of art it was. It was addressed to my husband and me, and I was beyond stoked. I love weddings. I tend to get teary-eyed and smile until my face hurts at the joy of new beginnings and all the love. I was even a wedding singer. That's how much I love them. I picked up the note card and read that while me and my husband were invited, I'd be in another room helping to babysit all the children there with several other female invitees. There's a special room for children at the church, and that is where I'd be. For everything. I'd still need to dress for a wedding in case I wind up in any photos, but I'd be taking my reception meal with the children, and I'd be with all the kids for the ceremony. Then there was a link for their gift registry. Oh, and the meals for my husband and myself would be $100 each, and we have a link to pay it when we digitally RSVP. The first problem here is that I am disabled at 50 years old. Legally. I use oxygen. I use a walker when I need to walk long distances. I sometimes have to give up the walker entirely and use a wheelchair. I'm not proud of it, but there it is. I could happily sit in a room and look at kids, but I'd be pretty useless to prevent a fall or stop a child from choking or anything else that would require me to move quickly. Second, my husband isn't the one who has been friends with these people since childhood. I am. Why would he be invited to watch the ceremony and be part of the reception, but not me? He said he'd happily watch the kids and let me attend the wedding and reception, but the invitation specified that only other female invitees would be watching the kids, so I doubt they'd let him. Is this a normal thing at weddings now? Do you pick guests to babysit other guests' children? Should I call them up and explain my health situation even though they already know it and visit me during my multiple hospitalizations a year? I hate having to pull the health card, but honestly, what were they thinking? I confess that I feel offended and hurt that I'm nothing more than a babysitter to them who is expected to pay for my supper and babysit for free. Would I be wrong to simply tell them we won't be able to attend and to find another sitter? And if we don't go, do we still send a gift? No, you would not be wrong at all to tell them that. And there's no way you should send them a gift at all. It's obvious. It's just insane what is going on here. Now, there's way more to come in this story, I'm happy to say. Well, happy, you get what I'm saying. There's a lot more to come. There are about 3 or 4 updates. But first of all, I just want to give my immediate thoughts as to what I think is going on here. Actually, before I do that, get in the comments down below. Don't cheat. Don't skip ahead. What do you think is going on here? What do you think the reason is for this apparent switch up and the weirdest wedding invitation of all time? For me, I think we've got another case of just pure ableism here. And like we've seen before in other stories that I've narrated on this channel, I feel like, you know, this woman, this bride-to-be just perhaps doesn't want someone with a wheelchair or with a walker or oxygen tanks in her photos. I think that might be the reason. I don't want it to be, but that is the only thing I can think of. Let me know if you guys agree in the comments down below. But yeah, as it stands, I am sadly leaning towards that reason. Now, before we get into the first update here, there are a couple to come. OP has first of all answered just some more basic questions for further context. Let's get into that. Okay, then let's get straight into OP's first update, which addresses some questions. I know these folks because my mum, RIP mum, and the bride's grandma were besties. So I grew up with the bride's mum as an almost sister to me. We went to school together, graduated together, worked at the same place twice, and have been super close since. The bride is like a goddaughter. At least I thought she was. I'm gobsmacked here. The church where they're getting married is a Southern Baptist church. They aren't members. None of us are overly religious. They just liked the venue and booked it. I've never been inside, but it's lovely on the outside, and apparently it has a childcare room that is big enough for a bunch of women and kids to hole up comfortably for a wedding and reception. We're all American. The groom's family is related to my family via marriage, and the bride and groom met at my house at a cookout a few years ago. I've always been way closer to the bride's family though. I knew that there had been a proposal. I got FaceTimed about 10 minutes after it happened, and my husband and I cried and laughed and wished them well and oohed and ahed over their story and the ring. I was expecting an invitation, sure, but not like this. The last time I had lunch with the bride's mum, she told me they're inviting around 200 people, so it will be a large wedding with, I'm assuming, a ton of children. No, I don't hate kids. I love kids. I would have loved to have kids of my own, but my body just wouldn't do it. It took 2 miscarriages and a stillbirth to finally make me accept that it wouldn't happen for us. We're in the process of adult adopting 2 young adults that we brought into our home when we found out they were kicked out and homeless at 18. They've lived with us for years and we're making it legal. They call us mum and pop and we're a family. I'm still considering my options. I've started and deleted multiple emails to the bride's mum. I'm a raw nerve right now and my tone isn't the kindest. I want to keep it all in writing so there can be no he said, she said. I plan to ask if they incorrectly sent me the note about babysitting, since they know I physically cannot do that. But every inception of the email led with, "What the actual frick, Donna?" So I need to think about it some more. Thanks for all the comments. I'm reading them all. Now, speaking of comments, let's get into some of the top comments from the original post. Now, first of all, somebody said, while quoting OP, who said, "I'm not proud of it, but there it is," talking about their disability, they say, "Sorry to not reply to your initial question, but this comment caught my attention. I just wanted to let you know that you should actually be very proud of yourself and your body for pushing through and using the equipment that is needed to support your body well." OP replied, saying, "Thank you so much. I never expected this to be my reality at 50 years old. Never. I went from being so healthy and doing all kinds of sports, I rocked roller derby and could swim like a fish and loved to play tennis, to this. And sometimes I feel like it's not even my own body I'm living in anymore. It's just not okay. Therapy is helping me accept it, but it's still an uphill battle that I feel like I can't win. So thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you." Okay, now let's get into the first proper update posted 6 days later on July the 17th, 2024. I spoke to my friend, the mother of the bride, and I'm pretty upset. I've been bawling for most of the day. She called and said that they were getting a lot of backlash from the wedding guests. No one wants to pay $100 for dinner, and only 3 of the women asked were okay with babysitting. I told her I understood that the guests were upset because it's just tacky to 1, be asked to pay, and 2, be told you're invited but only to babysit. I told her I would not be a babysitter at all. No, just no. She got mad and brought up how we were lifelong friends. She said I'd be helping them more by babysitting than I'd be helping by simply sitting in a pew watching. I reminded her that I couldn't physically help at all due to, being legally disabled. She said they completely understood that and expected me to simply supervise the other sitters since they trusted me most. Again, I told her that I felt it was insulting to be voluntold, thanks Reddit for that word, that I'd be babysitting, and that I had no desire to do that, especially not dressed in formal wear. I mean, being asked to babysit for free at one of your best friend's daughter's weddings is still just insane, doesn't matter about any of the logic. Then we got to the truth. She said that she didn't know if I'd be in a wheelchair that day or require a walker. That's fair. I don't always know which one I need. She said that they wanted everyone in pews for the wedding video, and me sitting in a wheelchair would make me stick out and ruin the video and photos. I told you guys, I was right. These guys are mother frickin' ableists. I knew it. I said, if I need a wheelchair that day, then I can move to a pew and my husband can put the wheelchair in another room or back in our car. I may not even need it that day. Then she says, well, space is limited in the pews. You'd take up the space of 2 people with your purse and oxygen tank. Oh my goodness. I replied, no, I would not. I wouldn't bring a purse in, and the oxygen tank either sits on my lap or between my feet. It's like a little backpack. Then she said, well, having you in oxygen in the photos would be distracting from the other people. And there you have it. Words were exchanged and she hung up on me. I haven't been removed from any social media yet, but I fully expect to be. I already feel awful for being this way at only 50 years old. I didn't choose this. I didn't want this. If she thinks it's awful to have it photographed, just imagine living with it, which is what I told her before she hung up on me. I'm devastated. Just devastated. Goodness me. You think you know someone and then they do this. Absolutely insane. Let's get into the second update. This was posted on July 25th, 2024, a week later from the first update. I'm not in the greatest headspace. I don't think I've ever been less okay, honestly. I did not register to RSVP or communicate with them further until another invitee got in touch with me and said that the mother of the bride, a person I thought of as basically my sister, was bad-mouthing me into the ground. I explained my side and our mutual friend was livid. They told the mother of the bride and the bride that they were wrong to want to exclude me because I might or might not need a wheelchair and would have oxygen on my face. I could remove the oxygen for photos, they told her. So the mother of the bride sent me a message saying, and I quote, "Well, if you're going to be butthurt about the aesthetic we want to achieve and try to turn other guests against us, then you can freaking come and sit in a pew, but not in photos. And we'll try to get the videographer to do edits to the wedding vid too. But I won't forget how you made this difficult for us." Oh my goodness me. You made it so difficult for us by having a disability. That is crazy. I replied, "How did I make it difficult other than existing?" She replied, "You clearly told blank about what I told you regarding your wheelchair and oxygen, and she's telling everyone else. We're getting a ton of hate." Yeah, I wonder why, for being ableist. I said, she asked me if I was attending and I told her no and explained why. I didn't lie to her. I told her exactly what you said. You didn't tell me not to tell anyone your reasons. If they're valid reasons to you, then you shouldn't care who knows. So I'm now blocked. By the bride, the mum, the dad and the groom. A friendship I've had my entire life is over. A goddaughter that I helped nurture and care for is just gone now. We paid for the bride's car insurance, gas and cell phone all through high school and college because we wanted her focused on just her studies and not a part-time job. Her parents got her a car but insisted she work, but her grades fell when she did and we helped her. And this is how they thank us. This is how they repay our kindness. I guess I'm a great friend when I'm giving money, but I'm not good enough to be seen. I felt like a burden my whole life and this has set me back so far. I'm just not okay. Okay, now guys, good news. Actually, in the time that I've been recording this, there has been a brand new update posted. This is the third update. I wasn't planning on including this because I didn't know it existed, but it now does. So let's get into it. This is the final update for now. Apparently my post went sort of viral because it was on Fox News and a site called Bored Panda. A few mutual friends reached out and asked if it was me, and I admitted that it was. They were told something completely different about the situation. The bride's mother told them that I refused to come because of my health difficulties and that I was afraid I'd ruin the wedding and then decline the RSVP because of that. She even claimed that she had been begging me to attend ever since the engagement happened, which was a bold-faced lie. I'm the one who organised and paid for the after engagement party so they could announce the happy news to everyone, and I was clear to everyone that I couldn't wait to attend the wedding. So I sent screenshots, photos of the invitation, and the note card telling me that I'd be babysitting, and then the showdown where I was told I could sit in the pew and just be edited out of the video and would not be in any photos. I also posted it on Facebook and shared receipts there too. Well, World War II has officially commenced. Granted, I'm getting this all third and fourth hand, but here's the latest. Word is spread fast. Links to the news article have made it all over the place, and I've been told that the few ladies who had agreed to babysit have backed out and asked if there was something wrong with them that would make them not fit to sit in the pews or be in photos. And I think that's probably the case actually, since two of them have unnatural hair colouring and the other has facial piercings. Oh my goodness me, you just can't make this up. The church that was booked as the venue has been notified, and I'm hearing it's probably not going to happen there because the pastor's daughter is wheelchair bound after a car accident. He was going to officiate, but now he says he's conflicted about it and the message it would send. My ex-friend and the bride have blown up my husband's phone because I blocked them after this went public. They blocked me first on all of the social media spots, and he let it go on for a few days to see what they had to say. He's blocked them now, but the bulk of it is that I'm jealous that I was never blessed with any children of my own. Oh my gosh. So that is why I'm ruining this for them. I'm hateful and vile and vindictive because I hate them for their clear health. That might be the worst thing they've said so far. Surely they know what you've been through with your attempts to have children. And they're saying that? That is just so cruel. I mentioned that the groom is related to me by marriage, right? That whole branch of the family tree has now divided itself with some on my side and some on the bride's side. The groom hasn't contacted us at all, but his mother did and told me that I was wrong for sharing personal business and that I need to let the bride have her wedding how she wants it. I don't agree that I did anything wrong here. I can't help but I'm sick. They've made me feel like utter trash that should just be tossed into the landfill. I hurt. I literally ache because of this. So, hi Donna, my ex-best friend and practical sister. If you're reading this, you devastated me. I'm not okay. I don't know that I'll ever be okay again. I invested time and money into both you and your daughter. I gave you both a home when your marriage was messed up and never charged you rent or asked for help with groceries or utilities. For over a year, you lived in our home and we paid your way, so you are wrong to treat me this way. My oxygen mask and possible need for a wheelchair should be the last thing on either of your minds, because what matters most is that I, feeling as bad as I normally do, was still going to put on my dress, make myself look presentable, plant a smile on my face through my pain, and show up for you like I always have. But I never ever will again. If people noticed me in your photos at all, it would have been because I had the biggest smile and I'd be the most proud of anyone there, and they'd see the love I had for you radiating off the image. You will regret this one day when I'm gone and you realize that there are more important things in life than a perfect photo. Wow. Okay, so there we go. That is the end of that story, and I just do not know what to say. One thing I will say is that I knew it. I knew it was ableism. Hooray! I was right. Ableism. Yeah, okay, don't really know what to say, but yeah, the main thing is these people were clearly just not the people you thought they were, and were just using you throughout everything. If there is some sort of silver lining for you that you can take from it, just think to yourself how much better of a person you are than these people. You and your husband are than these people. You mean you're so gracious. You gave up so much time, so much money to help them out, but this is how they repay you. I mean, you just got to sack them off and just, yeah, sadly say that sometimes in life this stuff does happen. You got extremely unlucky. They're just terrible people and you weren't to know. It's tough, but at least you know now. I mean, ultimately, looking at it from their perspective, they probably weren't friends with you the entire time. I don't know how they can have been and then do something like this. They were just using you, and that is going to take you a while to get over, but at least you know now. And yeah, as for the wedding, I mean, obviously don't go. Tell everyone about how they've treated you. It sounds like you're doing that, which is great. Hopefully the venue cancels, the pastor cancels, either the husband or bride-to-be cancels. I mean, I hope they get divorced immediately. That'd be great. Or the wedding just doesn't happen, pretty much, because they do not deserve to be married and have a happy life. That is for sure. Just cancel it immediately. My future mother-in-law called me stupid, and now I'm considering calling off the wedding. How do I approach the situation? This was originally posted on June the 29th, 2024. I am a 23-year-old woman, and I'm engaged to John, who is 24. We're together for 5 years. We want to get married in July 2025. I always thought that his family liked me because we get along well. He has 2 older brothers, who are 26 and 29, who are both married. Honestly, I was very excited to have them all as my in-laws. They were always kind to me. Some kind of important information. About a year ago, when I was scrolling on Instagram, I saw a profile that was kind of cringy, but in a cute way. It was an older woman's profile who shared inspirational quotes. I remember one particular post, and it was something along the lines of, "Only stupid people pretend to know everything. Don't pretend, just ask." Honestly, this quote changed me in a lot of ways. Before that, I was always worried that I might embarrass myself if I don't know something. And after reading that quote, I realized that if I always pretend that I know everything, then I'll miss out on actually getting to learn about things. So, I decided to change my habits and start admitting that sometimes I genuinely don't know. Someone is talking about the war in Kosovo? Okay, sure, but first let me ask some questions so I can really understand what we're talking about. And I ask a lot of questions sometimes. I sometimes even open the Notes app and write in some questions that I later want to find the answers to. These are my latest. How does the time work in a black hole? Why some snails have shells and others don't? What food is okay for ducks? How does the light bulb work? the old ones with gas inside them? And does everyone see colours the same? And how can we know that? Alright, sorry for the long introduction, but it was kind of necessary for understanding what kind of person I am. I know that sometimes I might come across as annoying. Now, onto the problem. His parents hosted a small barbecue last weekend only for the family. So it was his mum, who is 54, his dad, who is 59, his 2 brothers, and their wives, who are both 27 years old. I was the last person who showed up because I had to work late. I entered the house, and when I was walking towards the back of the house, into the backyard, I heard John's mum talking about me. To be honest, she wasn't talking about me, more like mocking me. I heard her say in a high-pitched voice, "How does the sun work? Where should I put the fork? Why does nobody like me? How do I wipe my butt?" I just stood there. I had this sinking feeling. I couldn't move, so I just stood there. And I heard them all laughing. One of the wives said, "I actually don't mind her always asking questions. I think it's cute." And it made me feel hopeful that they'll say something like, "Yeah, sure, we're just playing. We love that." But none of them did. Instead, the mum replied, "It's not cute. She's just stupid." After that, they laughed again. And I heard John laughing. My heart kind of broke in that moment because he didn't even say one positive thing. He didn't defend me. He just laughed. I quietly turned around and left the house. I texted John saying that I got sick and have to stay home. Now I'm wondering, how should I approach this situation? We live together, and I'm sleeping in the guest bedroom for now, and I'm using the excuse that I don't want him to get sick from being around me. But I can't ignore him forever, and I can't pretend to be sick anymore. It's been too long. I'm not sure how to proceed. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I'm considering talking to them about this, but I'm also worried that they won't be honest with me. I can't marry him if he really thinks I'm stupid, but I also can't marry into a family who thinks so little of me. But maybe it was a joke and I shouldn't take it so seriously. I'm so torn apart, and every day I convince myself a bit more that it's okay and sometimes we should all laugh about ourselves. Now I feel like I'm going crazy. I'd really appreciate some advice. Okay, before we get into my personal thoughts on this one, and then of course on to the first update. Firstly, OP has left some comments down below, a little edit, addressing some people that have said that they really don't like people like OP. She says, "There are many comments saying that they cannot stand people like me. I agree that sometimes I can be a bit too much with the questions, but with that being said, I still think I'm within reason. I don't do it around people I just met. I rarely do it at parties or other gatherings. I usually do it with people who are close to me, who I think won't judge me, or with people who specifically have knowledge about something and are willing to share it. If I'm a part of a conversation, I'm not rude and I'm not interrupting, I usually just ask 1 or 2 questions. If a discussion is about the climate change, I'm not asking about monkeys, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm also not a complete idiot. I don't ask questions which generally would be considered dumb to other people. Those I just write in the notes and check answers later in the internet. I'm capable of reading, so I make good use of it. But after all, I still do ask questions a lot." Okay, first of all, I've got to say that I don't think there's anything wrong with asking questions at all. And I ask myself this: who would I rather be in a conversation with? Somebody that's asking maybe a few too many questions, but someone that's asking questions and is, curious about the conversation, admitting they don't know everything in the world, just like every other person ever, or someone who acts like they know everything. And to be honest, sometimes I do catch myself doing this and I'm like, don't do this. It's not good. Someone that is just a bit too stubborn and doesn't like to admit that they don't know something, and instead of asking, isn't really brave enough to do so and just acts as if they know it instead. I would rather be with someone that says, you know what, yeah, that's actually interesting. I didn't know or don't know anything about that. Tell me. Surely that's better. Now, secondly, when we're coming on to OP's family-in-law to be, and particularly your husband to be, that's just not good at all. Even if it is a joke, firstly, you shouldn't be joking relatively maliciously, I'd argue, behind someone's back when they're going to be marrying into your family. And secondly, for your husband not to even give any sort of positive comment at all and just laugh is mental. I completely agree with you. If anything, I actually think it's worse than you're saying. But yeah, that is it for the initial post. Guys, get your comments down below. What do you think right now? 3 days later, though, we got this update. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to people who reached out to answer my questions about black holes, snails, ducks, light bulbs, and other stuff. I'd love to have you as my friends. For the other people who said I should just shut up, I don't really care if you find me annoying or hard to be around. I'm okay with that. I don't exist to please everyone. I'm just here for a good time, have my own interests, and learn. I didn't expect my post to gain so much attention, but I'm so grateful for the advice. Most of you told me to break up with him, and at the very least confront him, so that's what I decided to do. You gave me a push and the confidence to do it. But before I did that, I texted the wife of John's brother, the one who said she liked me asking questions. I asked if we could meet up for coffee. She said, sure. We met, and I didn't see the point in pretending to her that I didn't hear their conversation. So, after some small talk, I just said, I heard you all talking about me during the barbecue. She immediately got sad and said she feels embarrassed. She explained that it wasn't a joke. It wasn't out of context. It was just mean and hurtful. She said she's sorry for not defending me more, but I said that it's okay and I understand. I told her that I don't blame her for anything and just wanted to make sure that I understand the situation and see it for what it really was. And it really was laughing about me behind my back. Just bullying. At this point, I just had to confront John. In my last post, so many comments were saying that he'll probably try gaslighting me. And you were right. We were having dinner together for the first time since the barbecue happened, because before I tried my best to avoid him. Yeah, I know that's not very mature of me, but other than you guys, I don't really have a strong support system. My family and best friends are hundreds of kilometers away. I only have 2 good friends here. I was so stressed, I thought I'm gonna pass out. My legs were shaking and I was terrified because I knew deep down that this is the moment where my 5-year relationship goes down the drain. I looked him in the eyes and I asked, how does the sun work? He looked confused, so I followed with, where should I put my fork? Why does nobody like me? At this point, realization hit him and he started nervously laughing. I said I was there and I heard them. After the initial shock passed, he got mad. He said it's rude to eavesdrop. I said it's rude to bully people. He tried telling me that it was just a joke, that I shouldn't be so uptight, that it really was funny. I said that I didn't find it funny, and I went to the guest to calm down. He started panicking. He was asking me to please talk to him. He was much more apologetic and said that he will be 100% honest with me. I asked if his mother made similar comments before the barbecue. He said yes. I asked him if he ever defended me. He said he tries to, but I don't know if I believe him. He told me he loves me and respects me. I don't know if I believe that either. I said that I love him too, but I need a break. He's all I've ever known. He was my first and only partner. Remember guys, OP is 23. I have no outside perspective of this. I've got no experience. I need a moment to think. I'll be going to my friend's house for a while to think everything through. The apartment has his name on the lease anyway. After I gathered some of my things and left, he kept texting me non-stop. He tried calling, but I didn't respond. I was very hurt because he tried to belittle my feelings, and only later, when he realized that I might break up with him, did he start apologizing. The next day, I decided to give him another chance to explain himself, and I came back to the apartment. He seemed very sad and tired. He said that he told his mother that I overheard them. I said, I don't care. It's his time to step up and show me that he cares. I'm not interested in an apology from his mother. I'm already done with her. I can't put up with this behavior and mocking me like we're in primary school. I saw a comment saying that probably her ego is hurting, and I think that's true. She never got the chance or never had the desire to have an education. She's a very good homemaker, but outside of that, she doesn't have many interests of her own. If I'm asking her about making tomato soup, she'll talk for 30 minutes, lecturing me about adding enough sugar, but not too much. She'll lecture anyone who is willing to listen. But anytime someone is talking about something she's not familiar with, she gets defensive and tries to imply that nobody cares about that. And if it's not relevant to her, it shouldn't be discussed. And again, I go back to my previous point, guys. Who would you rather be in a conversation with? OP, who's happy to learn and is asking you questions, or OP's, well, let's see what happens with her husband-to-be, his mum, who just doesn't want to talk to you about anything that she doesn't know about. Once again, he tried telling me that I should relax because it was only a joke, and at this point, I'd had enough. I took off my ring and told him that his behavior is a joke, and I can't be the punchline. I told him, what a line that is, by the way. His behavior is a joke, and I can't be the punchline. Hold that. I told him that I wish him and his family the best and to look in the mirror to check if they really are as superior as they think they are. I said I'm going to be back with my friends soon to pick up the rest of my stuff and to not contact me again unless it's about moving my things out. And that's it. I'm done. Thank you all for the advice. Without you, I wouldn't have the confidence to leave this man. I know I deserve better. I can't be with someone who can't stand up for me, and I wouldn't be able to feel comfortable around his family. So I'm done with the relationship. I hope they'll treat his next girlfriend better. Thank you again, Reddit, for the advice. Now, before we get into the final update, posted 3 months after the original, first of all, here are some comments. Somebody said, "Keep on being curious, not judgmental," which I completely agree with. Now, that is actually a reference, as I'm sure a lot of you know, to Ted Lasso. Same, says OP. I absolutely love that show. I watched it with my ex, and it's funny that he didn't like Ted and thought that his character was not relatable and silly. To be honest, we all should have Ted's strength and positivity sometimes. Yeah, I kind of get that. At times, I would say that Ted could come across as perhaps a little bit overbearing and just annoying because he was so positive. But ultimately, you want somebody like that around you, right? Someone that's going to pick you up when you're down, someone that's always going to see the good side of life. So yeah, I agree with that. Somebody else said, OP, your ex-mother-in-law can still go and get an education, by the way. Many have, and there's still time. That's not an excuse for what she did, and her saying that and acting like that shows how uneducated she is. OP says, I think so too. I believe it's never too late to start learning something new and continue education. In my uni, there was an old lady in her 70s who recently graduated, and everyone was just so proud of her. In my country, university is free, so the barrier to entry isn't as bad as in the US, for example. Okay, so pretty much OP is saying, there's no excuse. Go and learn, you old bint. I'm not sure you can say that, but let's move into the update. So as I said, this was posted on the 28th of September, almost 3 months after the original. It's been some time since I posted the last time, so I thought I'm going to give you guys a small update because some people are still messaging me. I appreciate all the kind words. So, I've got my own apartment now. I lived with my friend for a while and she was an amazing support for me after the breakup, but now I have my own place closer to my university and work. It turns out my ex-fiance didn't tell his family that we broke up. I blocked them all except for the ex himself because we needed to keep in touch in order to get my stuff from the apartment that we shared, and my nice sister-in-law. And a week after the breakup, she texted me and asked when I'll come to the parents' house because everyone wants to apologize. I called her and said that we're no longer together and I don't really want their apology. Now she seemed shocked because my ex was telling them that we're fine, she just needs some time. She told me that the family is still fighting over this whole ordeal and that the brothers are giving my ex a hard time about the situation. I told her nicely that I don't really want any updates. I like her, but I cannot put my energy towards following their every move. She told me she understands. I don't know what happened after that with them. I'm happy. I went on a date with a cute guy I met in a cafe, but I'm taking everything slow and I don't want to rush any relationship. I'm not ready because just 3 months ago I was planning a wedding and right now I'm single and focusing on studying and work. When I graduate, I want to adopt a kitten and that is my only goal in terms of any big commitment right now. I also enrolled in CS50 by Harvard X and I recommend you all to try and learn something new today. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask and I'll try to answer in the comments. And boy, some people did have some questions. First of all, somebody said, update us on the kitten, please. I will for sure, says OP. I'm so excited. I wanted to get a cat for so long, but my ex was against it. He didn't like them. He was a dog person. I'm waiting till I graduate because I want to have more free time to actually take care of it. Somebody else asked, may I ask if you already went and picked your stuff up from his place and blocked him for good? I hope so for you to end the chapter more easily. OP says, yeah, I did that after a week and a half. I was completely done picking up my stuff. I tried not to be petty and take my silverware, for example, and not give him a reason to get mad. I didn't want to come alone, so I only went when my friend had the time to help me. He did though get mad when I took my air fryer. He loved it more than anything. I blocked him after I took everything that was mine. And then a comment on her ex's family. I think even though the brothers still think what the family said during the barbecue was funny, they're giving my ex a hard time because he let a good one go or something like that. They don't think they were in the wrong, but they're making fun of him for not standing up for me, and they're laughing at the fact that I broke up with him and he didn't even have the balls to tell them. One of them said that if someone called his wife stupid, he would defend her even if she would have done something dumb. Okay, sorry, there's a lot to unpack there, and I disagree with a lot of the stuff that these people are saying. Firstly, you're laughing at somebody else's wife or wife-to-be, and the fact that her husband-to-be hasn't defended her, yet you're saying that you would defend your wife if somebody else was calling her stupid. So how about just don't call anyone stupid in the first place? That's very, very hypocritical. Secondly, they just don't seem like very good people. Anyway, here is the final comment. Somebody said, it actually seems like you've moved on very easily. From love to engaged and then blocked within a few weeks. Yeah, the love faded really fast. I didn't expect it. The attachment to him is still there, but I very quickly stopped feeling love for him when I fully realized that he sees me as stupid and at the very least, not on his level. So there we go. That is the end of that one. And yeah, all in all, I would say that despite the fact that it was a pretty tough story at times to read, and I feel bad for you, OP, that your husband-to-be's family was just laughing at you behind your back, at least you found out right now. And I think the last point is very, very important, right? You seem to have moved on pretty quickly, which I think shows that ultimately you know now that he wasn't the right man for you in your life. Like, it's not as if you're groveling over him thinking, oh, why did he have to do this behind my back? Why are his family so horrible? No, you've moved on because you've realized that this wasn't going to be the right thing for you anyway. And yeah, of course, the attachment is still there, and I'm sure there is still a lot of love there. But yeah, the fact that you're already going on another date 3 months later when you've been with him for 5 years and we're engaged, it's a pretty good sign, to be fair, as far as a good sign can be when you've just broken up with your fiance. So there we go. There is 3 hours or so of some of the best wedding-related drama Reddit stories of 2024. Let me know in the comments down below, because it's sort of exploded this year in the last 365 days. People have just loved the wedding drama. Let me know if you are one of those people that have really enjoyed it. As I said in the intro, there's going to be a lot more in 2025. I feel like we're just scratching the surface with what can happen at weddings, and we've seen some pretty crazy stuff already. I'm excited to see what's going to come in the new year, and I hope you are too. So with that being said, I will catch you on the next episode.